commissioned pursuant to the Industrial Development Income Tax Relief Federal Budget. Please accept, distinguished Senate President, the assurances of my highest consideration. Yours sincerely, Muhammadu Buhari.
The Senate know they happy sake of the fall for revenue from oil, with on the possible sake of the crash for oil price. The President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, when they reacted to one motion where they raised by the Senate Majority Leader, Senator Yahya Abdullahi, for the implications for the crash, Yan say Nigeria did danger. But if it make us fall or take it enter inside the recession. Senator Lawan yan the Senate Committee on top of Finance, National Plan plus appropriation to take it engage with the relevant government agencies to take a find a way for the crisis.
Oil prices have tumbled from about $68 per barrel to around 31, which could clearly crash our economy into recession. Already, I think the administration has reacted with the president, I think between yesterday and day before yesterday, calling on the major players in the executive arm of government, setting up a committee to look into this issue and how Nigeria can be able to guard its loins, to face this crisis. We should need to engage a lot of our committees so that they will be ready at any point in time to engage the committees that are being set up on the executive side. So our committee should be ready. So that whatever could happen. We hope this crisis will not last for long, but if it does, we have to prepare.
We all recall that we passed our budget, in fact our MTEF, FSP, and subsequently the budget on the benchmark price of $57 per barrel. Today, that price has crashed to, I think, 31 or thereabout. We don't know where this will stop. In order for this Senate to be proactive, to protect whatever would be the situation for Nigeria to implement the budget in a way and manner that will positively impact on the lives of our citizens, we form a joint committee. This joint committee will continue to engage with people in government as well as people outside of government, where we can be abreast with all the necessary information. So the committees on finance, national planning and appropriation will now form the joint committee, and the finance committee will be the lead committee. You engage with those in government, the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Finance and National Planning, and any other ministry that you feel you need to have engagement with for you to have information.
And still for Front and Top Plus TV Africa News, now our roundup on Top Entertainment plus Sports News. Will they come back just now? And inside entertainment, Billie Eilish, a bad guy, will be pounding song where they poke fun for distorted perceptions and being then named as a top global single for 2019 from the record industry. A Bad Guy will be the fifth single from the 18-year-old American singer first album, which they titled And When We Sleep, Where Will They Go? And a hit all over the world and the most listened to track for the year. And inside our official Bad Guy video, we get 809 million views for YouTube. IFPI, where they represent the recording industry, Ian said the track come top for their digital single chart with a 19.5 million track, and where the equivalent ahead of a Lil Nas X Old Town record, and we come second with 18.4 million track equivalent. And Billie Eilish, she don't take the world by storm with her incredible voice and genre where they defy sound. IFPI Chief Executive Francis Moore, and this one. And she said, now artists where they address important issues like mental health inside her lyrics, and where they clearly resonate with her fans all over the world. And so we take end entertainment news, the very best on Top Sports. They come now. And inside sports, also Roma don't reveal say they no go travel to Spain for their Europa League round for 16 tie against Sevilla as their flight no they authorized to travel. The Italo Giants yarn for Twitter say their plane from Italy never they authorized to land inside Spain. And they still yarn say UEFA go give more updates. And while Spanish club side Getafe Presido Angel Torres earlier yarn say inside they no go travel to Lombardy, Milan and northern part of Italy we get the highest coronavirus case inside Europe. Italy dey on total lockdown for the coronavirus outbreak with a significant travel restriction where they in place across the country. As the Italo government still cancel all sporting activities go reach April. The Italo Football Federation FIGC don reveal say the Serie A season fit no finish sake of the outbreak. And then don't already get 10,000 confirmed cases for COVID-19 inside Italy, and where 631 people done they confirmed dead. And Netherlands club side the PSV they don't appoint a former Bayern Leverkusen boss Roger Schmidt and then go take a charge of the club from next season after they signed 2-year deal. And while interim head coach Ernest Faber could step aside for the end of the 2019-2020 season and then win the Austrian title with Salzburg inside the 2013 and 2014 season. And before then lead Leverkusen to back-to-back top 4 victory inside the German Bundesliga and still win the Chinese FA with Beijing before he sacked from the Chinese Super League inside the 2019. PSV, they currently fourth inside Red Devils table, 7 points behind leaders Ajax. And that's now a news roundup for event we shall doing by this very o'clock. And for more news updates, I beg follow us at Plus TV Africa on top of Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. And it will make a bonga sense if you subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa. We go come back later with more to reason where they make a background headlines. On a well done. My name na Destiny Momo.
A lot of the jobs that exist today will not exist in the next 10 years.
10 years.
When I see people today shouting, we're not too young to run, we are ready to run. Ready to run to where?
The people of excellence are, to a certain extent, being held ransom by idiots and bandits.
Once you are in government, you believe everything you do is right. And once you are in opposition, everything the government does is wrong.
And so it's time for us to take over power.
Welcome to Tea Time on Plus TV Africa, where we bring you the biggest entertainment stories and, of course, analyze them for you.
You can have both parents and still end up as a useless child. I see them every day.
Most times I worry more about where I'm coming from and where I am now, and that determines my next step.
Why are you sounding like an
Alibaba
now?
Plus TV Africa, we're feeling good. No time to dull, everybody feeling alright.
Make music and people are still buying. Sometimes I look myself minimal IO.
Akpala music is for mature minded people. I got DMs sometimes from Malawi like
Sleeping early.
it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria?
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bookie November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's Tea Time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Hey, what's up, guys? You're welcome to another edition of Plus Event, and I remain your host, Ifeoluwa Oshukeye.
Your absence isn't an excuse anymore, as Plus Events is all you need, as we bring you the glitz, the glamour, and loads of fun.
Oh, definitely, right? No question. He's a living legend.
Oh, God forbid, Holy Ghost fire, I know.
I just want to be blown away. I want to be wild.
This is 11 years of doing it.
I'm surrounded by so much positivity.
No, it's okay.
Yo, what's up, my people? It's your boy Starboy Terry. You're watching
Plus Event on Plus TV.
Stay glued to Plus TV Africa every Saturday and Sunday, 4:30 p.m. West African time.
Again on the show where we feature individuals with compelling stories. Stories you will consider not the regular, not the usual, not also the normal day-to-day life stories. We are here to see female carpenter, Google. But first, safety measures.
My dad is an architect, so I've been around this. He loves carpentry. Like, he's always, since when I was small, I can remember him making stuff. So I will be around it, and then, of course, they will chase us back inside the house. They don't want nails to enter our legs. And he was more interested in the boys coming in, but that never happened. I have 3 brothers, and none of them are interested at all. At all. Yeah, so he was more interested in that, but that didn't work out. My mom was very adamant about we had to go to school, we had to finish school, we had to go to college, we had to finish college. So I went to medical school, I finished very well. I graduated with merit from Lutz. Yeah, so. And then after, I said I wanted to come into this. And of course, they were not so keen on it. But, you know, like, you have to come and prove your worth. And people think I just manage, which is not the case. As you can see, I am part of it. If you do not know how to do it, you cannot tell them what to do. So they will tell you that what would normally take 30 minutes will take 2 days, and you'll be looking at them thinking that that's it, but that's not it. So I do it. I know almost every aspect of this now. I even take classes in the morning. I'm teaching people how to do this. So yeah. So that was how it started. This is 5 years now. And I think I'm doing a really good job. I still do consultations sometimes with some of my colleagues, but apart from that, this is what I do. This is what I enjoy doing. You see, look at me, I'm fit. Like, it keeps me fit, so I'm happy about that. But stereotypes. When I started, it was very hard. I was arrogant in the sense that, you know, I'm just coming from medical school. I know exactly what I'm talking about. Let me do this. But You would think that it is the artisans or the uneducated people that are my problem. No, I would go to see clients, highly educated, and they would look down like, this is a girl, what is she saying? What can she tell me about this? No. So I learned in the beginning that even when I'm going for meetings, I have to take men with me. So I could be telling these clients that this is how we're going to do it. He'll be looking at the man, I'm saying, so this is how I go. I didn't mind as far as I was getting the money, right? That's the most important thing. But with time, your work tends to speak for you. And then when they finally see the face, after they've gotten, like 3-4 job friends, they don't really mind anymore because, your work is good and it speaks for you. So that was a major challenge. I lost half my staff at least when I started because nobody wants to take commands from her. There's a difference between an older woman with kids and they're saying, my friend, do that, but when you're young and you're saying, my friends, do that, and these are people that are not used to it, so it's our culture. Yeah, so I lost them. I said, it's either you do exactly what I say, you get out. And yeah, I actually lost. So we started rebuilding after that. And since then, I've had great workers. I have, you have some bad ones, but then, filter. So that was another challenge, getting good staff. Girls want to come and work, which is great. I encourage it, I love it. But then I noticed that when I hire women, in the beginning, you see the men, no, don't carry, I will help you. No, I'm not paying her for you to help her. But after a while, of course, you saw some women there. So after a while, they started doing it by themselves. So I encourage women to come. I love when I see women doing these things. And you still look good even after, because please, this is not how I look, After this, I clean up really nice. You still look good after. So it doesn't show. It keeps you fit, keeps you healthy, you're happy. Yeah, so we've gone through ups and downs, the lights issue, everybody is facing that, of course. And our factory runs on diesel every day, so you can imagine how much we spend. But apart from that, we're going up, so I'm happy. So 5 years. I've gained experience, I've gained humility, yes. I've gained muscle mass. I've gained strength. Of course, we've grown so much. We're selling a whole lot more. I have gained knowledge in the sense that I can now teach others what I know. 5 years of experience is a lot, especially when you're hands-on. I'm still learning from him, and it's a struggle. I have gained tact. Tact in the sense that I know better how to deal with people. I don't talk down to anyone, I don't talk up to anyone. I can deal with artisans, I can deal with executives, everybody at the same level. So yeah, we've gained so much. I'm happy on the journey. It's tiring. There are days that I do not want to do this, honestly, but I'm up at 6 a.m. every morning. I am. Drag myself out of bed, come and do this. And then it's not just this. If it's just this, I'm happy. Because this, I can do it, and I'm listening to music, I'm there. But then you have to deal with the managerial aspect. You have to deal with human beings. You have to deal with clients. And I love my clients, but some clients are very difficult. You have to deal with Lagos State, tax. So yeah, when you deal with all this, you have to try not to get hardened. Because that is the next thing, especially as a woman. You get so hard, you're angry, you're coming to work, you're like, but you have to still maintain your femininity. You have to be happy. You have to find happiness even in what you're doing. You have to come and start joking with your workers, even when they've got you so upset, you do. So yeah, I've gained all this. I'm still learning, don't get me wrong. There are some days I still come out angry, but I won't trade this for anything else. At first, it was hard. It was hard to balance both. It was very hard because I found this hard to just detach from work and focus on either relaxing or hanging out with friends, or I enjoy reading a lot, like reading books. So then I was focused on building, and the process of building, especially when you're just starting, is always very taxing. So I could break down for like a week and I would still be working, I would be sick. My temperature would be, it was bad. But I'll still be working because I felt, this is what everybody should do in order for them to, succeed in life. So yes. But then I had good friends. My family is amazing. We fight, yes, as all families do, but they're amazing people. Like they would force you to relax. My sister used to seize my phone because, I'm on my phone thinking, how are we selling on Conga really well? She will seize my phone. She will be like, no. They will hide my phones from me. My friends will come, force me to take a shower, force me to dress up and go out. And then they will hold my phones because I had to, just be in the moment, have good conversation and relax. And, at that point, I thought I was wasting my time. I'm like, why am I here? I'm not making money doing this. I'm not growing doing this. Why am I here? But then I noticed when you go through that process of relaxation, when you come back to work, like you are 100 times more productive. You are freer, you're calmer, you can think clearer. I tried to balance it now. So in the beginning it was hard, but now I take like 2 trips every year by God's grace, So by God's grace, I take like 2 trips. And on the trips, I am fully off work. I don't care if something has blown here. When I come back, we'll deal with it. I've always been very, one of those people, epicals in school. I've always been that. And people didn't really like me because I was also very sports oriented. I have awards from Milo. I have over 20 medals. That I'm very sports oriented. I played basketball, football. That was how school was. It was high grades, highly effective at school. I was sports prefect, went to school. Next thing, I was sports prefect again. Milo awards. Then university. Yeah. University was interesting because I was meant to go into medicine. But I said I didn't want to go into medicine. My mom was very adamant, African. I love my mom. So she wanted me to go into medicine. I said I didn't want to go. I want to do something more sports-oriented, And physiotherapy is perfect. So I went into physical therapy, that's physio. And I didn't really like the constraints. I went to Lutz. Lutz is an amazing school. They will teach you really well, but we're still learning things that if you go to other schools, they're not doing this anymore. We're learning about microwaves. Nobody is using microwaves anymore, I get passionate when I think of it. So yeah, so I went through school. I had alterations with my lecturers, because I was smart. If I was stupid, it would have been better. But I was smart, so I could tell you, no, what I read was wrong. I'm the kind of person that will argue with you in class, and nobody likes that. And now I'm smart enough to know I should not have done that. Yeah, so school was fun. I used to go for parties. I had a very balanced life at school, I did. And then projects, graduation. Yeah, so I graduated with merit. That was top 3 in my class, which was top 3 in my set, which was really good. And then what else? Yeah, then I went for youth service. Everybody was surprised I stayed the 3 weeks, the 3 weeks orientation camp. Yeah, because they always just believed I was soft, so I would just escape, that kind of thing, but no. So I stayed 3 weeks, it was fun. I had fun with everybody. And then after that was my practice, So after 6 years of physical therapy, medicine, and I decided to quit. I didn't quit. No, I didn't decide to quit. I didn't quit, but yeah, I practiced for a year. So after that, so that's 7 years, 7 whole years of my life. Yeah, so I practiced and I did 7 years. And then I decided to come into this. My mother was against it. She was fully against it. She said, no, you should practice. I already had 3 offers. 3 offers, all government hospitals, really good places. And she was like, I should just get the job. I should just do it. But I couldn't see myself doing that. I really couldn't. I couldn't see myself going to work and then doing the same thing I was complaining about, seeing 30 patients a day and not helping. And I was interested in this because you can come here in the night. It's quiet, it's beautiful. You're listening to music. I'm playing like old school. I'm very old school. So you're playing like old school jams. This is something like Michael Bolton. And then you're making things that people will use for 10, 20 years of their life. I enjoyed it so much because, like the first thing I made and I sold it, I was so happy. It's like, oh, I created this thing and then someone is going to use it and enjoy it. So I was so happy. And after that, I knew I couldn't go back. I just couldn't. I came here, I started doing this. And then my father is, he's of the older generation. So they didn't understand social media. They didn't understand that nobody goes to stores anymore. So, of course, it was me. And then my brother came into this. That is Olisa. he came in and we started setting up social media, we started setting up Conga. So we were selling, consistently. And then they were so excited, like, oh, okay, maybe you guys can come in now. Like, okay, like, yeah, so we were selling and then we came in and we are doing really well. So, yeah. So even though my mother was against it, now that she sees, she's like, yeah, Google, so how is, everything's good? I said, no, didn't you just travel? Everything is going fine. Yeah, so yeah, and we're growing and we're getting better. And please, I am a Christian, so, I'm very adamant about that. Christianity has taught me so much, not in the sense of religion, in the sense of getting closer to God. So every time even before this, I pray. I want to say the right things, not just for me to look good, but for me to help somebody or touch somebody out there. So I'm very adamant about praying before meetings. I could just be walking and I'll be talking to myself and I'm speaking in tongues. So yeah, okay. So this was one of the first things I made. This is not the original one, but yeah. So this is the Jella series. We name all our products. We name them, Jella, Montag, whatever name. So this is the Jella series. I was so excited because it was very simple. We sell this for 7,000. So it's cheap. Okay, pretty affordable, yeah. So we've sold over 100 of this. So just imagine you made this and you sold over 100. I was really happy. I even made like a video on how normal people could make it, and everybody was so excited. Like, oh, okay, I'll try it. Of course, I'm sure most people didn't try it, but I'm happy they rather buy from us. Yeah, so yes, I was excited about this. This was good because we're trying to make our furniture more affordable. We tell people that our furniture lasts 20, 30 years. Most people in our generation are not interested in that. They want something that they will change every 5 years. So this will still last 20, 30 years, and it was still very affordable. So I was really happy about this. So this was my first one.
You follow your passion. If you have because a lot of people nowadays, a lot of young people study to please their parents. They study courses to please their parents. They study courses that are popular. But when you find what gives you joy, follow it. I have a son who is into baking and he's studying engineering. So it's normally a conflict. Normally, I would have said, let him leave his engineering and concentrate fully on baking. But as I said, passion is not gender-based. I won't say I wish you were a boy, but I'm happy. I'm very happy. It gives me joy. Just looking back, seeing her handle things, doing things, some things I cannot even do.
Okay, so I'm a carpenter, and I love it. Okay. And I know that this is not your regular 9 to 5, but this is my life, and I love it so much.
And still here on the show, we bring you the story of Omozo Ehige, who left the world of banking, safe and secured job for what she learned how to do as a child and grew into as second nature, hairstyling precisely. Today, with her other sisters, All Naturals is born.
I've been natural for 19 years, since 1999. I keep playing that my hair will soon go to university and I'll do a birthday party when it turns 21. But the thing is, I keep cutting my hair because, I don't know, maybe it's I don't know. I always grow it up to a certain length and then I cut it. So right now, it really should be longer than this, but it's not. So I think this year, maybe I won't cut it. So by the time it's 21, it should be much longer than this. All Naturals was started in 2009 as a blog by 3 sisters who all had natural hair and were in all their different spheres of life. So we were answering questions on how to care for our natural hair, how to care for the natural hair of our daughters, because my older sister has 2 daughters with natural hair as well. And the salon started in 2013. Most people think All Naturals started in 2013, but no, it started as a blog in 2009. All Naturals is actually derived from the O sisters. My sisters and I were popularly known as the O sisters because all our names begin with O. And so we have natural hair. So it just progressed naturally to O Naturals. I started off in financial services. I started working in a cash office, and from there I went into working in a cooperative. I went into private banking, and then I went full-time into O Naturals. However, while I was in my financial services career, I was still working as a professional hairstylist on the side. And in 2009, I now went into professional hairstyling of natural hair. At the time, natural hair wasn't a big deal. There weren't many schools teaching stylists how to care for natural hair. And a lot has changed now. So I was in banking, I was in financial services for about 18 years before I transitioned fully to working with O Naturals. So I left the financial services industry in 2015, January 2015, and have been working with O Naturals since then. And I left after 18 years because it was time. It was time. O Naturals needed a lot of attention at the time for the organization to be able to grow to what it is now. We are not where we want to be. We still have a lot to do, but I wouldn't have been able to grow the business from where it was in 2015 to where it is now if I had been working simultaneously at another organization. I went into natural hair care because my younger sister went natural, and I was a professional hairstylist at the time, so I was helping her care for her natural hair. At the time, there wasn't much information about natural hair, so really we were doing trial and error. And we would ask my mom questions about different products. And my mom would tell us about coconut oil, ori, which is shea butter now, which the world knows as shea butter. So that was what we were using, and I would weave her hair, I would style it differently. We used thread and those kind of things. And as I was doing that, she was getting a lot of compliments, a lot of questions outside, asking her, who did your hair? How did you take care of your hair? And she would direct them to me. I was working at a salon at the time. So after working at the salon during the day, I would be answering questions. People would be at my house. I would go doing mobile hair styling for various people. So there was a need. There really was a need. And we felt that we had the capacity to solve that problem and to meet that need. And that was how we decided to go into natural hair. I had some apprehension before leaving financial services completely, before leaving paid employment completely. I was afraid, I was unsure. Should I even say I was confused? But I was not, I will say this, I didn't have any doubts that O Naturals would succeed. I don't know if those two contradict each other. There was no doubt in my mind that the organization would do well. This business idea would do well. But my concern was, okay, so you will now leave banking and then you will be doing a job that you don't know how frequently you're going to get paid. You don't know when you'll get paid. A customer is going to come. You have no idea. So that apprehension was there. That fear was there. Will natural hair, will a salon that cares for strictly natural hair succeed? And I guess, well, like I said, in 2015, ending of 2014, November, a good friend of mine told me that I should write my resignation and prepare to move into focusing on my business so that my business would grow. So I wrote that resignation in in September, handed it in November, and actually left in 2015. So there wasn't really, I had always been in there. So my heart had always been in there. So there wasn't really a definite time where I said, okay, I'm going to do hair now and I'm not going to do financial services. And to be fair, I still have some dabbles in financial services now. The initial challenges for setting up O Naturals, honestly, nobody will lie, would be, first of all, us. The ones who came up with the idea. I I guess, encouraging ourselves to go ahead to do it. My older sister is a medical doctor. My younger sister is a writer. I was in financial services. So we had careers in different areas. So we were really our first challenge, kind of believing our own vision and putting our vision into putting it down on paper and sharing it with other people. So that was one of the challenges. Another challenge was, of course, finding a space. Where are we going to set up the salon and all of that? The best moment so far in my career has been expanding the business to where it is now. We've expanded from 4 chairs to 14 chairs. And in my mind, I think that's growth. Regardless of how small it may seem to somebody else, it is growth. You've grown from being, small, very small, to, medium or small now. So instead of smallest, you're now small or smaller, whichever way you want to look at it. But that was very exciting. I remember sitting down on my styling chair, looking out the window, how cliche, looking out the window, and thinking to myself, if everything were to scatter today, I would not be upset. My favorite part of running Au Naturals is creating styles and interacting with my staff and customers. I can shout at my staff. They know that, but they know that we have a goal and an objective. So it works out well. This most requested hairstyle in the salon, I think right now, is combination. Typically when we bring out a new hairstyle, a lot of people want to try the hairstyle out. A lot of people want to get it done and all of that. So right now, combination is our most popular hairstyle. And we spice it up with a little bit of roll and talk, with a little bit of extensions. But right now, combination is leading the pack. Nigerian hair through the decades is very, very interesting. I'm actually a fan of the history of hair and the progression, changes of hairstyling and hair care in Nigeria. Some things may seem to have changed, but we still use ori, we still use coconut oil, we still use avocado to take care of our hair. Our grandmothers did it, our mothers did it, and we are doing it now. The styles for the different festivals, for the different events, weddings, childbirth, deaths, Oshobo festival, the hair styles at that festival alone is amazing. Even the Argungu festival. So hair in Nigeria is rich. We are trendsetters. We take from other places and we turn it around to make it ours. So much so that people think it originated from us here. The local techniques, rather indigenous techniques like threading, DD, we incorporate those even in our hairstyling today and even in Au Naturals. So it is rich, it is interesting, it's mesmerizing. And one thing about Nigerian women is we are bold when it comes to style, whether it's clothing, makeup, or hair. If I were to go back in time, I would do many things differently. First thing, I would not delay. We got the place, start. Just start. All the mental gymnastics and somersaulting doesn't get you anywhere, So I would start earlier. I would have started the natural hair salon earlier than we did, actually. And I would actually have written more things down, structured more, Sometimes people think it's difficult to structure what is not in existence, but I think it's important to create what is not in existence and you kind of grow into it as opposed to waiting for things to happen because you become reactionary. So with the new projects that we're working on, we're being more proactive. So we are structuring now, we are planning and strategizing for now and for the future. So those two things I would do differently. We would start immediately and we would create what it is we wanted to see. Hello, I'm Omozo Ehigie. This is not your 9 to 5, but it's my life.
Hey, what's up, guys? You're welcome to another edition of Plus Event, and I remain your host, Electoral Oshuke.
Your absence isn't an excuse anymore, as Plus Events is all you need, as we bring you the glitz, the glamour, and loads of fun.
Oh, definitely. By no question. He's a living legend.
Oh, God forbid, Holy Ghost fire, no.
I just want to be blown away. I want to be wild.
This is 11 years of doing it.
I'm surrounded by so much positivity.
No, it's okay.
Yo, what's up, my people? It's your boy Starboy Terry. You're watching
Plus Event on Plus TV.
Stay glued to Plus TV Africa every Saturday and Sunday, 4:30 p.m. West African time.
Hello and many thanks for joining us on News on the Hour of Plus TV Africa. Here are some of the stories making the headlines. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says that regular interface between the federal government and private sector is critical to the development of the economy, especially in creating employment. Osinbajo made this submission on Tuesday when he received on a courtesy visit at the presidential villa a delegation from the Kano Chamber of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, Kasima, led by its president, Dahatu Abubakar. According to the vice president, continuous engagement between the public and private sector is important. Osinbajo said he was encouraged by the report he received from the delegation on the progress made by rice millers in Kano State. The vice president restated efforts being made by the federal government to further support agricultural production, including a collaboration with other partners using 12 dams across the country under the Transforming Irrigation Management Project. Osinbajo urged the business community in the state to support the free education initiative of the state government as a way of building the future workforce for the industries that would be established. Amid tumbling prices of crude oil, the federal government is set to cut the country's 2020 budget. President Muhammadu Buhari is expected to get a report from Budget Review Committee on what his administration can do to salvage the 10.59 trillion naira budget. The Budget Review Committee, which was set up by Buhari, is chaired by the Minister of Finance, Budget and Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed. Its primary duty is to review the $57 oil benchmark for the budget and ultimately recommend an appropriate size down from the current 10.59 trillion naira. Other members are the Minister of State, Petroleum Resources, Timipriye Silva, Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, and the Group Managing Director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, Mele Kyari. Joining us via video call is an economic policy analyst, Gospel Obele. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, We're faced with an oil price crash supposedly linked to the infamous coronavirus. Please make the link for us. For some of us who may not be in the know, what's at stake here?
So interestingly, the budget is built on the oil price, basically. Speaking to the revenue side of the budget. So when the oil price goes down, it affects the quality or quantity, per se, of revenue that comes in to finance the 2020 budget. On the other hand, it also affects the excess crude account, because it's usually the differences between the oil price and the budget assumption, which was pegged at $57 per barrel. That difference is what is being saved into the excess crude account. So what it means is, number one, the government doesn't have so much to finance the budget because there'll be a drop in the revenue. And on the other end, it would mean that there'll also be a fall in the foreign exchange earnings. And once there's a fall in the foreign exchange earnings, it means that there will be shortage of dollar supply to the economy. And because Nigeria is still largely an import-structured or import-dependent or a consumption-driven economy that is import-dependent, what that means is people who import will not have so much dollar to facilitate that trade. So it means that internally, for goods and services that are available, the prices of these goods and services will increase. And then for goods that are going to be imported at a higher price because dollar is not readily available, that price would also be shifted to the final consumer. So government government will suffer from drop in revenue, and then the average consumer, the average Nigerian, will face more cost pressures as it goes around his normal business.
How can we compensate for the crash to avoid our economy being dramatically impacted?
So it's quite unfortunate that a lot of our policy initiatives and interventions and our moves, basically as a people, and majorly on the fiscal side, is reactive. Even down to the Finance Act is also reactive. So we've not, from the get-go, built strategies for revenue and engaged on the proactive end. So in terms of compensating, we will need to move from being reactive to being proactive. And part of being proactive is to focus on the non-oil side of the economy. And speaking to diversification also, the economy has been diversified in terms of sectoral input to GDP or sectoral contribution to GDP. What has happened is that the diversification program has not hit properly on the revenue side. So it means that the revenue base has not been diversified. And you have that because there's a lack of coordination, the proper or the required coordination amongst the institutions that are involved, in driving this. You also have that because there's a high informal economy. You also have that because the sectors that have been diversified on broken value chains. So it means that you don't have the structural basis for diversification. So the economy is diversifying based on individual or cluster activities, not based on the fact that structural deficits are being fixed. So to fix these issues will mean that our policies have to be a bit more proactive. Finance Acts or finance bills that have been introduced or reworked over the next coming years have to be more proactive than waiting for people to respond to a 7.5 VAT increase before you raise revenue, knowing fully well that once the oil price hits, your revenue drops. So we need to be more proactive with our policies and our bills. We also need to ensure that diversification hits properly on the structural issues, and then MDAs have the institutional capabilities and strength to move from just a diversified economy to improving the revenue base and supporting the ease of doing business.
For a long time, we have been chanting the mantra of a diversified economy. To what extent would you say we have made progress in this regard?
So quite clearly, the economy has been, to a fair extent, diversified, because we see that in the GDP numbers. For example, the oil economy for example, the oil sector now contributes about lower than 14%, to the GDP, and the agricultural sector or the non-oil sector contributes about 92%, to GDP. You also look at the structure in terms of agriculture, manufacturing, and services. You discover that services contributes about half of the Nigerian economy. The challenge with diversification is that a whole lot of the efforts have been in the informal space, or we have not built institutions.
What can we do to avoid being vulnerable to such power tussle and even acts of God, such as coronavirus in the future?
So it's quite unfortunate that a lot of our policy initiatives and interventions and our moves, basically as a people, and majorly on the fiscal side, is reactive. Even down to the Finance Act is also reactive. So we've not, from the get-go, built strategies for revenue and engaged on the proactive end. So in terms of compensating, we will need to move from being reactive to being proactive. And part of being proactive is to focus on the non-oil side of the economy. And speaking to diversification also, the economy has been diversified in terms of sectoral input to GDP or sectoral contribution to GDP. What has happened is that the diversification program has not hit properly on the revenue side. So it means that the revenue base has not been diversified. And we have that because there's a lack of coordination, the proper or the required coordination amongst the institutions that are involved, in driving this. You also have that because there's a high informal economy. You also have that because the sectors that have been diversified on broken value chains. So it means that you don't have the structural basis for diversification. So the economy is diversifying based on individual or cluster activities, not based on the fact that structural deficits are being fixed. So to fix these issues will mean that our policies have to be a bit more proactive. Finance acts or finance bills that have been introduced or reworked over the next coming years have to be more proactive than waiting for people to respond to a 7.5 VAT increase before you raise revenue, knowing fully well that once the oil price hits, your revenue drops. So we need to be more proactive with our policies and our bills. We also need to ensure that diversification hits properly on the structural issues, and then MDAs have the institutional capabilities and strength to move from just a diversified economy to improving the revenue base and supporting the ease of doing business. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Gospel, for joining us on the news.
Thank you for having me.
Governor Nasir El-Rufai has appointed the deposed Emir of Kano, Mohammed Sanusi, into the board of the Kaduna State Investment Promotion Agency, KADIPA. The appointment was announced the day after Sanusi was removed by the Kano State government as Emir of Kano. A statement issued on Tuesday in Kaduna by Special Advisor on Media and Communication to the governor said Sanusi would serve as vice chairman of the board. The board is chaired by the state deputy governor, Dr. Hadiza Balarabe. According to the statement, Kaduna State hopes to benefit from the profile, experience, intellect and networks of His Highness Mohammed Sanusi, who before becoming Emir had built a solid reputation in global financial circles. Kadib had anchored implementation of the Ease of Doing Business Charter that earned Kaduna State recognition as the #1 place for doing business in Nigeria. Amnesty International is dissatisfied with the dethronement of the former Emir of Kano, Mohammed Sanusi II. In a series of tweets on Tuesday, the group faulted the decision to banish the former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, after he was dethroned. Amnesty International called on Nigerian authorities to respect the human rights of former Emir of Kano, his rights to dignity, freedom of expression, and freedom of movement. According to the group, restricting Sanusi and placing him incommunicado is against his human rights as protected under the Nigerian Constitution and international human rights law. It therefore asks the authorities to ensure the respect and protect the fundamental human rights of the former emir in accordance with the rule of law. Still in the news, the Coalition of United Political Parties, CUPP, has set aside about 3 million naira to support the dethroned Emir of Kano, Mohammed Sanusi II, to seek legal redress following his banishment from Kano State. The spokesperson of the CUPP, Ikenga Ugochinyere, while condemning the action by the Kano State government, said the act is barbaric and a flagrant violation of the deposed Emir's fundamental rights. Ugochinyere urged the ousted monarch to seek compensation over what he described as executive lawlessness.
The banishment is a barbaric and mundane assault on Emir Sanusi's human rights as a Nigerian citizen, a man who was caught on video stuffing dollars in his pocket like this, in his babariga, supported by the Buhari APC to manipulate his way to power, despite public rejection, shamelessly sat as a moral judge, both as accuser and judge, and passed sentence of dethronement and banishment on the people's emir in view of the illegality. We urge the people's emir to seek redress in court to set aside this barbaric and obnoxious action for the good of the nation and others who may be silenced and treated like him. In the event of going to court, the opposition coalition have set aside the sum of 3 million naira only as independent contribution to his legal team to help in seeking redress against this obnoxious and barbaric attack on our constitutional democracy and traditional institution by a gang of incompetent and shameless institution destroyers.
Staying with that story, contrary to the general impression that the former Emir of Kano, Mohammed Sanusi, was banished, the Attorney General of Kano State, Ibrahim Mokhtar, has maintained the state government did not banish the deposed Emir. Mokhtar said the state government was clear in its press statement on Monday that Sanusi was deposed, but never made any reference to any banishment. He added that the issue of banishment was not part of the decision of the Kano state government. Mokhtar said security agents decided to whisk Sanusi away from Kano State due to intelligence reports they had. He said it was normal practice for deposed emirs to be moved away to maintain peace in the state, adding that such an action was not in contravention of the constitution, which guarantees freedom of movement. The AG further stated that Sanusi was not removed because of corruption probe, but strictly because of insubordination. The immediate past Emir of Kano, Mohammed Sanusi's lawyers, on Tuesday vowed to challenge his banishment and detention by the Kano state government. Sanusi's legal team, led by former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Abubakar Balarabe Mahmood, at a press conference in Kano, said government should release Sanusi or face illegal action. They also raised the alarm over the deposed emir's personal safety and security. The lawyers stated that they had not been able to speak to Sanusi since Monday, adding that the location of the place where the deposed emir was being detained was meant to cause him maximum trauma and distress. Sanusi, who became the 14th emir of Kano on June 8, 2014, was dethroned on Monday by the Kano State Governor Abdullahi Ganduje and banished to Nasarawa State. Secretary to the state government, Usman El-Haji, who announced Sanusi's deposition and the appointment of Aminu Bagedo as his successor, said the immediate past emir was removed because of total disrespect to lawful instructions from the office of the state governor. A pro-democracy group, Yaga Africa, has described the current poor turnout during elections as worrisome. The executive director of the group, Samson Itodo, made this known in Abuja while addressing newsmen on the sidelines of a roundtable aimed at tackling voter suppression in Nigeria. Itodo said many Nigerians have lost interest in the nation's electoral process due to unresolved issues, ranging from election manipulation, thuggery, ballot box snatching, and several other issues.
Because it's becoming a recurring decimal in our elections, where either a specific geography or a particular ethnic group is deprived from casting their votes in elections. Honestly, it is unacceptable that we only record only 36% turnout for elections, the last general elections, and 32% turnout in the governorship elections. If you look at Kogi and Bayelsa, look at the number of turnout. Every Nigerian should be very concerned that Nigerians are either not coming out to cast the vote because they've lost interest in the political process, or the institutions that should protect their rights have shied away from their responsibility. And once people lose confidence in democracy, if people lose confidence in elections, we will no longer consider ourselves as a democracy, because we're only a small fraction of people are determining political leadership on behalf of the vast majority. We hope that the National Assembly, having told the public that they are committed to electoral reforms, they will do so. In the event they don't do so, it simply means that it's been just talk, and there's no commitment to electoral reform.
The news will continue after the short break. Away from Nigeria, authorities in the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, have confirmed the first case of coronavirus in the country. The patient, according to reports, is a Belgian national who had been under quarantine at a main airport in the capital, Kinshasa, DRC. Thus becomes the 11th African country to record a case. They are the second in the Southern African region, the first being South Africa, that has 7 confirmed cases. The country had its last weekend started implementing a compulsory quarantine for nationals from 3 virus-infested countries. The countries are France, Italy, Germany, and China. Up next is our foreign news.
Hello and welcome to What Are You Saying? #Ways.
Is there a law that governs the tech space?
The first major law that you'll find out has to do with usage of data. It talks about how you protect the information you collect from people.
Most apps generate revenue through advertising and subscriptions.
I've seen children download 20 apps and they're using it. So what are we doing to trap, them from that young age?
So it's a step-by-step process, you know.
By the end of the day, if you're trying to develop an app, whether local or international, and your user interface is pretty awesome, most people won't care where it's from. The process for getting your app on iOS is way, way, way more stressful.
Stringent, yeah.
No, stressful, not stringent. It's stressful.
Hey, what's up, guys? You're welcome to another edition of Plus Event, and I remain your host, Electoral.
Your absence isn't an excuse anymore, as Plus Events is all you need, as we bring you the glitz, the glamour, and loads of fun.
Oh, definitely. Right, no question. He's a living legend.
Oh, God forbid, Holy Ghost fire, I know.
I just want to be blown away. I want to be wild.
This is 11 years of doing it.
I'm surrounded by so much positivity.
No, it's okay.
Yo, what's up, my people? It's your boy Starboy Terry.
You're watching Plus Event
on Plus TV.
Stay glued to Plus TV Africa every Saturday and Sunday, 4:30 p.m. West African time.
Weeks after Vietnam declared that all 16 of its coronavirus cases had recovered, the number of infected patients is on the rise following reintroduction of the virus on a flight from Britain. Vietnam's health ministry reported on Wednesday a total of 35 coronavirus cases, more than double the original 16. 13 passengers who were on a Vietnam Airlines flight from London to Hanoi on March 2 tested positive for the virus. Most of them British or Vietnamese people who had traveled to other parts of Europe, including Italy. The ministry said Vietnam's latest coronavirus case, a 29-year-old saleswoman in the central province of Da Nang, had close contact with 2 infected British tourists from the flight on March 4. There have been no coronavirus deaths in Vietnam. We go to the UK now, where we hear the Health Minister and Conservative MP Nadeem Dorries has been diagnosed with coronavirus. Ms. Dorries, the first MP to test positive, said she had taken all the advised precautions after finding out and had been self-isolating at home. It comes as a 6th person died from the virus in the UK, which has a total of 382 cases. The latest person to die was a man in his early 80s who had underlying health conditions. Meanwhile, the NHS England said it was scaling up its capacity for testing people for the infection, or the number of cases set to rise. French healthcare company bioMérieux announced on Wednesday the launch of 3 tests to help fight the coronavirus that has killed thousands worldwide. Biomeris, which provides diagnostic solutions to identify the source of the disease, said it had finalized development of a SARS-CoV-2 gene test that is expected to get a European CE mark. This product will also be submitted to U.S. regulator, the Food and Drug Administration, for possible authorization. The company is developing 2 other testing products to be submitted to regulatory authorities in this year's second and third quarters. Still ahead on Plus TV Africa News is a roundup on entertainment and sports.
It is time for the African superhero.
We have also begun to see the renaissance of the natural, of the Afro. And what a thing of joy.
Imagine if we broke down that 40 million per lawmaker into how many families?
I am not for anybody in that sense. I'm for everybody and I'm for nobody. But I'm for people who, at that point in time when they're being oppressed, I'll key into that thing. But I'll never go and sign up for life and say, I'm your paddy, because I've seen women oppress women more than men.
A woman in church who preaches women rights, feminism, and the rest, and maltreating a young, small girl that is staying with her, who is even younger than her own daughters.
That's the
human and, and then the
you.
way, if you see the slap she gave this church,
Wow.
the young girl, because she couldn't do sign of the cross. And I was like,
There's a very, very strange madness that's coming from a clique of people that have come into power with Buhari.
Welcome to Tea Time on Plus TV Africa, where we bring you the biggest entertainment stories and, of course, analyze them for you.
You can have both parents and still end up as a useless child. I see them every day.
Most times I worry more about where I'm coming from and where I am now, and that determines my next step.
Why are you sounding like Alibaba now?
Plus TV Africa, we're feeling good. No time to dollar, everybody feeling alright.
I really like you.
I can still make music and people are still buying. Sometimes I look myself minimal IU.
Akpala music is for mature-minded people. I got DMs sometimes from Malawi, like,
Sleeping early.
Pop star Miley Cyrus has cancelled a trip to Australia for a bushfire relief concert 3 days ahead of the show, citing recommendations that travel be curtailed to counter the spread of the global coronavirus epidemic. She was set to be the headline act for a concert on March 13 in Australia's second largest city, Melbourne, which the organisers have now called off. Miley took to her social media page to make the announcement, stating that she is disappointed. She further said she was following the recommendations of local, state, federal and international government authorities. All proceeds from the show were to go to Australian charities aiding relief efforts following a devastating bushfire season which destroyed nearly 12 million hectares of bushland, killing 33 people and an estimated 1 billion native animals. Australia has reported 100 confirmed cases of COVID-19, the disease caused by the virus, with 3 deaths. And that's it on entertainment. We'll bring you sports news after this very short break.
And in sports, Gambia head coach Tom Saintfiet has called for the postponement of its qualifying games against Gabon as the players are based in Italy. Saintfiet stated that the qualifications cannot go on as some of the African countries cannot call up its best players as a result of the coronavirus outbreak. The Confederation of African Football said it had no plans to take any immediate action over the continuing spread of the virus on the continent. Federation of International Football Association, FIFA, confirmed on Monday that it has postponed World Cup qualifiers in Asia, while the Italian government announced on Monday that the country has been placed on total lockdown and in quarantine as all sporting activities have also been cancelled. And still on sports, Manchester City's Premier League match with Arsenal on Wednesday has been postponed as a precautionary measure, and several Gunners players are in self-isolation after Olympiacos owner Evangelos Marinakis contracted coronavirus. And Arsenal say Marinakis met a number of their players when the Gunners hosted the Greek side in a Europa League match 2 weeks ago. Marinakis, who also owned Championship side Nottingham Forest, said on Tuesday he had tested positive for COVID-19. Olympiacos will host Wolves in the Europa League on Thursday after UEFA rejected Wolves' request for the last 16 first leg match to be postponed. And the Premier League says it has no plans to postpone any other matches and all necessary measures are being taken. Now, the latest report is that all players and staff from Olympiacos have tested negative for coronavirus, and we look forward to getting the feedback from Arsenal. And that's it on Sports Update on Plus TV Africa. I'm Udoka Njoko.
Thank you, Udoka. And that's our news roundup of events at this hour. For more news updates, please follow us at Plus TV Africa on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa. We will be back later with more stories making headlines. Do please join us again. Thanks for watching. My name is Felicity Ezewike.
Many thanks for joining us on the show this morning. This is Plus Sports and Plus TV Africa, and we bring you the best of analysis on the juiciest of stories breaking in the world of sports. I've got Destiny Onogberia on the show this morning, and of course, we'll be analyzing those breaking stories for you this morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning.
We saw incredible games yesterday in the Champions League.
Well, it was very unfortunate for Mourinho, and for Atlanta, I am actually shocked that they could just defeat Valencia that way, and it was actually a good game to watch.
Great goals were scored yesterday. We saw as much as 10 goals in the Champions League yesterday in just 2 matches. The game between Atlanta and Valencia ended 4-3, while Red Bull Leipzig defeated Tottenham Hotspur by 3-0. But let's talk about the Nigeria Professional Football League. Yesterday, news broke that the NFF has ordered all matches in the NPFL to be halted until proper medical facility has been put in place across all match centers. Now, this morning, a statement was released on the Twitter page of the LMC saying that the NPFL clubs have been directed to ignore speculations in the media suggesting that the Nigeria Football Federation has ordered the suspension of the league. Now, the chairman of the league management company, Shehu Diko, clarified on Tuesday that the statement by the NFF on its Twitter account was very unambiguous, that match commissioners and host states football associations must ensure that all medical requirements, including equipment and personnel, must be in place before starting a particular game. We'll be talking to Andrew Randa later on the show. Okay, he's already live on the show with us. Before I will allow Destiny to say a thing, let's quickly talk to Andrew Randa, the media officer for the Nigerian Under-20 national team, talking about the Flying Eagles. Good morning to you, Andrew.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, it's good to have you live on the show this morning. Now, I would like you to help unbundle what is really going on with the LMC and the NFF? Because yesterday we got news that the NFF said that the matches should be halted, but now we're hearing a different story. Would you want to bring us up to speed to that?
Basically, the release that was sent out yesterday by the NFF, I think the headline was a bit misleading, or we didn't read it very well. Basically, what the NFF are saying is the match commissioners or whoever is in charge of the game have the powers to stop a game or to suspend a game if all the medical equipment, personnel and facilities are not up to scratch in the stadium. And that is not to say that all the games that are scheduled for match day 24 of the Nigerian Professional Football League are not going to happen. I think the core part of the message from the NFF was that games can and should be suspended if those facilities are not in place. And for clarification purposes, the LMC also brought out a release saying that, yes, this is what we said, and this is how it should be, but the games will continue this weekend. And today, there's also a rescheduled game between Rangers International and Katsina United on Wednesday today, 4 p.m. at the Nnamdi Azikiwe Stadium in Enugu.
Okay, still talking about this now. Yesterday, I asked the question concerning medical facility. Who is supposed to provide the medical facility? Is it the FA, or is it the LMC, or the NFF?
It is the state FA in conjunction with the clubs. And this, since has been said, it's been happening all over the years. I really do not know why we're having this discussion, this debate right now. For every Premier League game, and I suppose this is the same with the NNL and the NLO and the NWPL, that's the Women's League, the state team which the club is domiciled in is supposed to, first of all, provide the stadium, first of all, provide logistics for the away team, and also make sure that the playing ground is perfect. And aside that, they need to make sure that security is also top-notch. So they are responsible for all of these things, including the medicals. They are supposed to work hand in hand with the Ministry of Health in their states, with the Red Cross and any other parastatal that's needed to make a 90-minute game, and even before and after the 90-minute game happen. And so therefore, in this case, Nasarawa United and Nasarawa State Football Association can be held culpable in that regard. They are supposed to provide or make provision for Red Cross, for medical facilities, first aid, and also liaise with the top medical hospital in their state, like Federal Medical Centers, where players, if there's a possibility or something happened during a game, they can be taken after first aid has been administered to them on the pitch of play. So that's how it's supposed to be. So the state FA, in conjunction with the host club, are responsible for not just the medical part of things, security, logistics, and every other thing needed to make a game successful.
Now, lastly, talking about the violence in the Nigeria Professional Football League, if you were in the shoes, if you were in the position of the LMC, what would be the possible solution on violence in the MPFL?
There are three layers to this thing, and I've said this for the past 3 or 4 years. First of all, I really think that a lot of clubs, or a lot of in Nigeria now, should not be playing top-flight football. And I say this with due respect to all administrators that are my friends. A lot of your clubs are not supposed to be playing football at all. The second part is the clubs are also culpable in this. I can give you various examples where matchday stewards actually turn out to even assault fans. So it's really, really bad. And the third layer is that the LMC need to really need to come hard on clubs. You can do points deduction, you can do banishment, you can do fines. But unfortunately, the government part of Nigeria always comes to play also in our football. You cannot isolate the MPFL from the Nigerian government. I'll give you a quick example of what happened a few years ago when Nembe City and Giwa FC were booted out of the league just before the league started. But about a week or two before the league commenced, someone went to Aso Rock, spoke to Jonathan, quote and unquote, and then before we knew it, Nembe and Giwa were back. I can remember the LMC at that point did everything they can, put on motives on ground to make sure, listen, if you do not get some of these things that we've set in place, you will not play the league. Unfortunately, before the league started, some people went up, and then the powers that be sent something down to the LMC from above. And obviously, I mean, the LMC is not bigger than the presidency. The LMC is not bigger than the Senate or bigger than state government. So we're always going to have these problems as far as clubs are being run by the government. But that being said, we have to keep doing our best to enlighten the fans, enlighten the clubs, and then the LMC really need to come down very hard on these clubs. For me, if I was the LMC chairman, I would definitely do punch deduction or even kick them out of the league. It might sound a little bit too harsh, but something has to give.
Something has to give. Thank you very much, Andrew, for talking to us this morning.
Thank you for having me on the show.
All right, do enjoy the rest of your day. That was Andrew Randa, Media Officer, Nigeria Under-20 National Team. That's the Flying Eagles of Nigeria, airing his view on everything going on with the LMC and, of course, the Nigeria Professional Football League. You heard him. If he was in the position of the LMC, the hammer has to be hard on the clubs. And he said something I liked, which I think should be an option as well. Booting teams out of the NPFL who are not ready to comply with the rules and regulation of the league. And again, I also agree with him when he said that the teams are too much in the NPFL. Some teams do not deserve to be a part of the league at all.
Of course, definitely. Some teams shouldn't be part of the NPFL. Looking at how the way they play their games, some of the top leagues in the world, they are not even up to 20, 18, 15, 16, and it ends at that. And for the Nigerian Professional Football League, we are still going up and we are still playing the local football and we are not even doing it properly because it is your football that determines, it is your league that determines your football in your country. Now for Nigeria, they are not actually just going anywhere. We have up to 40-something teams and we have 20 in the NPFL and 20 in the NNL. Now, if you remove the teams that are fighting and it reduces to 15, I don't think there will be a lot of problems again. And those teams that fight, Kano Pillars, Katsina United, Dakada FC, Plateau United, at the end of the day, they will come out to say, okay, you give us the rules and we will abide by the rules and regulations. But if LMC cannot bring that to play, I don't think there is a way Nigerian can move forward in their football. It's not possible.
Well, sad one, but I just hope that we'll get things right and, of course, put things in place. Talking about the LMC and the Nigeria Professional Football League. And for the clubs and the club FAs, they need to provide the right medical facilities so that we do not have the tragic event that happened over the weekend, talking about the death of Chieme Martins, the defender for Nasarawa United. But then it has happened, and we'll keep saying, may his gentle soul continue to rest in peace. Now let's go straight to the UEFA Champions League and talk about how it's also RIP to Tottenham Hotspur. Yes, they've crashed out of the Champions League, and Atlanta have sealed qualification to the next phase of the tournament, talking about the quarterfinals. Now, how Tottenham Hotspur got to crash out of this tournament, I don't think is something that needs to be overemphasized because we know the injury worries. Mourinho has lamented over and over again. Now, the question is, or rather, the argument now is, Mourinho claims to be the special one. He knows how to deliver results. So how come injuries to Harry Kane and Son Heung-min became a huge brick wall for him to achieve success with Tottenham Hotspur in a few matches?
Well, imagine when Ronaldo is injured and he's not playing for Portugal or he's not playing for Juventus.
They will still deliver.
They will still deliver. But when you have your top players, when you have them as the center of your play, then Messi is doing that for Barcelona. And if he does not play, we are going to see how they are going to drop. Now, Jose Mourinho is suffering from injury. The player he signed in January is out to the end of the season, which is also a big nail to his head. And for yesterday's game, I knew he was actually going to lose because you actually don't have a front striker. Your midfield is utterly loose. Your defense is very, very bad. That was shown in the match in the FA Cup against Norwich City last weekend. And it's going to continue until he finds a way around it. Mourinho is still the special one. He knows, before the era of Guardiola and Klopp in the EPL, Mourinho was one of the toppest and the greatest coaches that could have lived after Alex Ferguson. But unfortunately for him, some coaches are now coming out to bring out new tactics and new style of play. And for Jose Mourinho in Tottenham, remember when he first started, I said he was the wrong person for the club, and I still stand by it. You cannot bring a person that is actually just, the style of play is no longer used again in the EPL, and people don't want to defend and attack. But for Jose Mourinho, he's just like trying to defend, but he's not trying to attack.
Is it a style of play now? Because you said he's not the right man for the job. Is it that he's bigger than Tottenham Hotspur, or his tactics are not just favorable any longer? Because for me,
Tottenham is a very big club. For the past, let's remove this. For
the
past 4 years, they have actually been going to the Champions League.
How do you rate a big club? Manchester City can be regarded as a big club because they've won trophies here and there. They've not just won the Champions League. Arsenal can be regarded as a big club because they've won the FA Cup, they've won the EPL and all that. Manchester United also can be rated as one of the biggest clubs in England, even in Europe. Chelsea as well, they've won the Champions League, they've won the Europa League. Leicester City can also be in that category because, yes, they've won the English Premier League, they've gone to the Champions League back-to-back, and they've given a good account of themselves. So that's how you rate a big club, winning trophies. So if you are calling Tottenham
when you have
Hotspur,
success in Europe,
does that mean that club is a big club? Without any trophy in their cabinet?
Tottenham, they did that for 4 years under Pochettino. And
without any trophy in their cabinet?
They were going to get there.
Not even a spoon?
Liverpool,
not even a spoon?
Liverpool for 30 years, they were fighting for the Premier League. They went to 2016 Europa League final, they lost to Sevilla. They went to 2018 Champions League, they lost to Real Madrid. It takes time. If they had left Pochettino in that position, you know, sometimes you cannot have it. Sometimes life is on the bed of roses. Sometimes you cannot just have it all. Season by season, he was doing very well, but something happened this season, and let's say there were actually rumors that something was going on in the dressing room, which I'm not actually sure of. But things happen in clubs that look at Manchester United. Since 2013, we have not won any league, but we are just trying to build up. So, but for Tottenham, I believe they should have left Pochettino. This is a man that led Southampton to to Europa League twice, with Mane and the likes of Shaw and Lallana. But then you bring him to a club and he continues the same thing consecutively. So you bring in another manager, you feel like, okay, this man has actually done it to Chelsea, Manchester United, Porto, Real Madrid, AC Milan, or Inter Milan. Now, he's doing it now, but unfortunately, the cards are against him.
Well, let's see how Jose Mourinho. I feel like he shouldn't be judged this season.
I'm not saying he shouldn't be judged, but unfortunately, injuries are actually just taking the better of him.
Generally, Jose Mourinho shouldn't be judged this season. Let's see what he will do next season, and if the club will release money for him to get the kind of players that he wants for his team, because we know Jose Mourinho to be a defensive coach. Let's see if he can get the kind of defenders that he needs for the team, and also the kind of attackers that he would need to ensure that he gets to win something with Tottenham Hotspur probably next season or seasons to come. Now, talking about the Champions League, and of course, Atlanta also went away from home to seal qualification to the quarterfinals of the Champions League after they defeated Valencia 4-3. An interesting game that went down yesterday. And of course, later today, we'll see more interesting fixtures, and we'll see how Paris Saint-Germain will perform against Borussia Dortmund. That will be a fixture that everybody will be looking forward to. And some Chelsea fans, or rather some neutral fans, are looking forward to seeing Liverpool also crash out of the Champions League.
Well, you know, the Champions League is getting interesting behind closed-door matches. And one of the things that we see in Anfield is they have their fans. It is their fans that actually magnifies the atmosphere for them. But unfortunately for them today, we are not going to see that. And that is going to be a very, very big setback for Liverpool. And I'm still going to say this, just like I said the last time, when I gave Atletico the straight winning. Today, I still believe that Atletico, they might have it against Liverpool.
All right, interesting analysis right there from Destiny, and also stamping our foot on the ground, saying Atletico might just get an edge over Liverpool. But of course, we know how Jurgen Klopp and his side can be. They can be very, very rugged, and they're playing at Anfield. Let's see how that turns for Liverpool, and of course, the fans right there at Anfield. Now, talking about Anfield and in the English Premier League, Manchester City's Premier League fixture at home to Arsenal has been postponed, and the decision to postpone tonight's game has been, it was supposed to be played tonight, and the decision was taken as a precautionary measure on medical advice after it emerged that personnel from Arsenal FC have come into contact with the Olympiacos owner, Evangelos Marinakis, who has been named as a positive case of the coronavirus. Really, really sad what's really going on across the world right now. And the coronavirus is hitting hard on all parts of life, and most especially the sporting world. In Italy, most of the Serie A games have been, or rather the Serie A games have been postponed until April. And we'll also know that some of the qualifiers as well have also been postponed due to this virus. Now, some games will also be played in the empty stadium because of the coronavirus. Now, Manchester City and Arsenal also called off because there's been a contact with the owner, Olympiacos. Well,
fortunately for sport-loving fans like the both of us, we are actually going to we are going to be very, very sad, because when play resumes in Italy on April 3rd, it's going to be a lot of pile-up. You know, you have Champions League to play, you have your Cup to play, you have your Premier League to play. is going to be very, very bad. And unfortunately for these players, they will still have to play qualifications to Olympics. And some people are actually still playing it. And some of the African players are still going to play their AFCON qualifiers to Cameroon 2021. And fortunately in fact, the whole world is affected. In La Liga, all matches are going to be played behind closed doors. In France, I heard that there's going to be a total lockdown of the country. But how far can we actually go with this? How far can we go? But one of the things I'm mostly worried about is the Olympics. Can the Champions League and the Premier League and all of the games in Europe, can they be played to middle of June or to May when you know you have a month to the Olympics and players are going to be very, very stressed out?
Yeah.
Well, for me, one thing I want to say is this. I want to say this, that some of those leagues that they already know that they already found their winners of the league, they should just give them the cup and let everybody go and rest. Because if they actually continue to play, come on, this man came to England on Friday, Nottingham Forest, and he shook some players. So do you expect that those players are not going to shake other people? It is so unfortunate. So let them just give them the league, let everybody go to their house and sleep, because we know that something is going to happen.
And we look forward to next season. But of course, the English FA, the government, they're actually saying that there's no reason to postpone most of these games. Let it go on as planned. Everybody should we should take precautionary measures, wash your hands, use sanitizers and all that. So they all want to enjoy football, but of course the coronavirus is hitting hard. So I think we should just make sure that probably these games be postponed or something else is done to ensure safety of these players and the fans at large. Now let's wrap up with the Formula One season we're looking forward to its kickoff in Australia this weekend amid a climate of uncertainty, anxiety and distrust. Now there's anxiety over the global coronavirus outbreak, which has led to the postponement of the fourth race of the season in China and forced the second in Bahrain to be held behind closed doors. You can imagine a Formula One race without fans, and there's uncertainty over just how significantly the virus could affect this season. We'll be speaking with our Formula One expert, David Olayenka, who will be airing his view on the Formula One and also the prospect of Lewis Hamilton getting to win the championship, or rather defend his title again this season. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Udoka.
Yeah, good to have you live on our show this morning.
Pardon?
I said good to have you live on our show.
Yeah, it's good to be live on the show.
Yeah, let's talk about Formula One. We're all expecting the race to kick off this weekend, and the first question has to be, do you think that Lewis Hamilton has what it takes to defend his title again?
Yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed. We're hoping the race will definitely get to kick off this weekend. Yes, Hamilton has the chance to defend his title and create history or equal history in the process because he's currently on 4 title. And we'll be looking at equally Michael Schumacher's 7 world title come under the 2020 season. So that's a big motivation for him because many have touted him to be one of the greatest. So him doing that sets him apart, if not even making eclipse Michael Schumacher. He's got some other titles or history that he wants to set by becoming the most successful driver in F1 by winning the most Grand Prix. Is currently 7 behind Michael Schumacher right now. Schumacher is on 91. Formula One Grand Prix wins. Hamilton is on 84. So should he go ahead and win 8 races this season, he becomes the #1 all-time record winner of Formula One races that has been won. So, and going by since the time he's joined the field from 2014 to date, he's won an average of 10 Grand Prix every season. So should he go ahead and do same this season, definitely it would surpass Michael Schumacher's record for most wins in Formula One history. Also, this will be the 70th year of Formula One, so we're celebrating the 70th anniversary. So it should be a good one. History in the making for Lewis Hamilton. Also, he's 4 podiums behind Michael Schumacher. Schumi is on 155 podiums. Hamilton is currently on 151. So it should be able to equal and surpass that in 2020 because it's got the history of doing that. So, yes, the world title looks safe and good in the bag, going by what we've seen in the last 6 to 7 seasons from Lewis Hamilton. He's a great game player. He's somebody who loves to thrive under pressure, and the pressure doesn't get any bigger than equaling Michael Schumacher's world record in 2020.
All right, let's wrap up with the coronavirus. Now, it seems to be affecting everything as one of the races. There's a possibility that these races will be postponed. But in Australia, do you think the race will go on as planned? And how would it be with a Formula One race without the fans to cheer the drivers?
If there are no fans, it takes away the livelihood of it, because that's what brings life to Formula One as well. Because not just the drivers, not just the cars, not just the burning rubber, the revving engines, but also the adrenaline pump of fans as well. So it will be sad if you don't get to see the fans. So one thing I've always said, safety first, because if it's not conducive to have the Grand Prix, then why go ahead and do it? Because we have about 4,000 people, Formula One staff in the FIA, medics, the pit crews, and all of the Formula One family traveling down to Australia. Then you have about close to 100,000 fans used to be in the stadium. So if these people are going to be affected, you wonder that is it worth it holding the race? Yes, a whole lot of money has gone into it, but it's really, really sad if it does get to happen. The Chinese Grand Prix has been postponed, but now the Floridian Grand Prix will be run behind closed doors. So, and the FIA is doing what they call critical cell. So, which is every 2 days they get to test everyone for the virus. So, hopefully, as of now, the Grand Prix will still hold, but between now and Friday, when the pre-practice session will be taking place, we don't know what would happen. But as of now, the race will go ahead. But to me, going by how viral COVID has gone around the world, it would be sad if it does get to affect the start of the Grand Prix. But all things we make, all fingers crossed. As of now, the Grand Prix will definitely get to hold.
Thank you very much, David, for speaking with us this morning.
All right, thank you for this.
Yeah, that's David Olayenka, our Formula One expert right there, giving analysis on what should happen this season, and also speaking on the outbreak of the coronavirus. How can we have Formula One sports without the fans there to cheer the drivers on? Well, that's a wrap on today's show. Thank you, Destiny. It was an interesting discussion with you this morning.
Thank you very much.
All right, keep it locked down to Plus TV Africa. Reach us on social media, on Twitter and on Instagram at Plus TV Africa, and on our website, it is www.plustvrafrica.com. And please do subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Plus TV Africa.
Oftentimes when we see celebrities either on social media, television, or in person, we assume they have it all together, but we forget that they're also human. Well, here are some of the low points of some of your favorite celebrities.
As a young person growing up, I have had to sell akamu on my head. You know, yeah, on a tray. You go like in the morning, like very early in the morning before I go to school. Buy akamu, you know. That's why you should never underrate anyone, no matter the situation. You see them or you find them. When I go to UK and had to play at the Rio Festival Hall with Miriam Makeba, then, oh my God, I'm like, that akamu selling girl. That was selling akamu. You know, so be inspired. Be inspired. Follow your dream. Follow your heart. Sit back and say, what is my passion in life? What can I do to better the world? And before you know it, you're already making an impact.
When I came to Lagos here after school, I remembered I entered what is called 911. 911 is a kind of lorry found then that they will load Gary, load at the back. Then in between the driver and the load, we have what is called second class. And that is where I sat. And could you believe that by the time I got to Ido and I came down, my box, my shoe, because it took us 3 days from Bender, from Midwest to Lagos, all my loads were loaded. You see, when you pass through such, And when you become somebody, you look back and you look at what people are going through. It makes you to help others.
When I decided to be an apprentice photographer, we were living in Ebutimeta, and I would trek, from Ebutimeta into Willoughby, from Willoughby into cross the Leventis into Ido Road, past Ido railway station, go across the Kata Bridge, and then into Agbogbon, into Broad Street. And I trekked that for 1 whole year. And then finally, when I got to London, I had to be a cleaner, every morning. Get out of the house by 4:30 to clean till 9 a.m. and then rush off to school. So I've done quite a lot of things like that, and I still continue to do that. And so for me, it is part of one's development. And I didn't see that I was suffering. Occasionally, you want to stop. You have cried many times. I've failed many times, but I've just got up. I get up again. A lot of people, I enjoy goodwill of some people who pull me up again and help me on my feet, and then I go on.
I finished that film and I became very famous. As young as I was, I didn't even know what it was. Everybody would just be calling me over. I'm like, what's wrong? What's going on? When the film was all over the place, so I couldn't go to the market. And I used to go to the market a lot, to go and buy all these second-hand, all the second-hand outfits. And then there was one day I went to the market with a couple of my friends, and I just realized that I just couldn't buy these things anymore, because they would tease me. The market, the people in the market, the traders will always tease me and said, so you see, they come buy Bendam Boutique, So that made me realize that, so if I become a star, there are a lot of things I won't be able to do, or what? So I went back and I said to myself, is this how I'm going to live my life? I won't be who I want to be. I won't be myself. And I said, no, I won't let that catch up with me. Just be who you are, no matter your craft, no matter how high you think you've become. Still be that same person that the girl next door, still the girl or the boy next door that people can always relate to.
First, he's dethroned, then banished, and now he's been held in detention. What really is the crime of former Emir of Kano?
Hello and welcome to What Are You Saying? #Ways.
Is there a law that governs the tech space?
The first major law that you find out has to do with usage of data. It talks about how you protect the information you collect from people.
Most apps generate revenue through advertising and subscriptions.
I've seen children download 20 apps and they're using it. So what are we doing to trap, them from that young age?
So it's a step-by-step process,
By the end of the day, if you're trying to develop an app, whether local or international, and your user interface is pretty awesome, most people won't care where it's from. The process for getting your app on iOS is way, way, way more stressful.
Stringent, yeah.
No, stressful, not stringent. It's stressful.
A lot of the jobs that exist today will not exist in the next 10 years.
10 years.
When I see people today shouting, we're not too young to run, we are ready to run. Ready to run to where?
The people of excellence are, to a certain extent, being held ransom by idiots and bandits.
Once you are in government, you believe everything you do is right. And once you are in opposition, everything the government does is wrong.
And So it's time for us to take over power.
It is time for the African superhero.
We have also begun to see the renaissance of the natural, of the Afro. And what a thing of joy.
Imagine if we broke down that 40 million per lawmaker into how many families?
I am not for anybody in that sense. I'm for everybody and I'm for nobody. But I'm for people who, at that point in time when they're being oppressed, I'll key into that thing. But I'll never go and sign up for life and say, I'm your paddy, because I've seen women oppress women more than men.
A woman in church who preaches women rights, feminism, and the rest, and
Sincere apologies for that break in transmission. First, he's dethroned, then banished, and now he's been held in detention. What really is a crime of former Emir of Kano, Mohammed Lamido Sanusi II? And also what is happening to the so-called recovered loot being returned to Nigeria from foreign countries? Well, the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Mr. Abubakar Malami, SAN, knows what is not happening to them. This is Plus Politics, and I am Benny Ark. The Coalition of United Political Parties, COP, has condemned the dethronement and banishment of Emir Sanusi II as the Emir of Kano by the Kano state government, saying the action of the government was unconstitutional, barbaric, and an assault on the fundamental rights of the deposed Emir. The recently deposed Emir of Kano, who accepted the dethronement, Lamido Sanusi II, was taken to Nasarawa and is being detained there. And joining me to discuss this evening on Plus Politics is legal practitioner Liberal Oshoma. Thank you very much for joining us, sir. And also political analyst Obideyi Lobinko. Thank you, Obideyi, for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Just before we get into discussions this evening, let's take a look.
The banishment is a barbaric and mundane assault on Emir Sanusi's human rights as a Nigerian citizen, a man who was caught on video stuffing dollars in his pocket like this, in his babariga, supported by the Buhari APC to manipulate his way to power, despite public rejection, shamelessly sat as a moral judge, both as accuser and judge, and passed sentence of dethronement and banishment on the people's emir. In view of the illegality, we urge the people's emir to seek redress in court to set aside this barbaric and obnoxious action for the good of the nation and others who may be silenced and treated like him. In the event of going to court, the opposition coalition have set aside the sum of 3 million naira only as independent contribution to his legal team to help in seeking redress against this obnoxious and barbaric attack on our constitutional democracy and traditional institution by a gang of incompetent and shameless institution destroyers.
The Coalition of United Political Parties called their stating their stance. Now, I'm going to start with you, Liberal Oshoma. As a legal expert, what is your take to the dethronement of the Emir?
Constitutionally, there are no, the positions of Obas and chiefs in Nigeria are mere advisory to the governor. And if I am today, as educated as I am, I don't think I will accept the position of an Oba, no matter how highly placed in Nigeria, because you are at the mercy of a local government chairman or a mere commissioner for local government and chieftaincy affair. Yes. And so I think it's not the way we play politics in Nigeria is not a position I will advise anybody who is very vociferous to accept, because the position of an Oba or an Emir is supposed to be that of, reticent, seen and not to be heard, even when you want to advise. The advice should be in behind closed door. And so things can go wrong. But because you occupy a position of leadership, so as not to be seen to be pandering towards the whims and caprices of political opponent, you keep quiet. So for me, it's quite unfortunate.
All right. Things can go wrong, and so we'll talk about that later on in the show. I mean, the things that went wrong with Mohammed Sanusi II. Now, let me take your reaction to his dethronement.
Funny enough, I'm not a barrister of law, but I know very well that for anybody occupying a monarchical seat, they are actually most times appointed by those in government, by politicians. So to a large extent, it's unfortunate that this is happening, but I see it from the positive side. I think it's good for Nigeria as a whole. Ordinarily, I wouldn't have expected someone like Sanusi to take up that office, but then he took it and still he was himself, which is good for the country. And now that he's been dethroned, I want to believe it's only going to give him more energy in building the nation.
We did hear what the spokesperson for the coalition of United Political Parties did say. Does Sanusi stand any chance for any kind of legal suing, legal hearing? Does it stand any chance?
Yeah, if you look at the manner and way he was dethroned, by provisions of Section 13 of the Kano Emirate Council law, there's supposed to be at least concurrence of 4 council members. That was not done, but he has accepted that in good faith. Also, the banishment to Nasarawa State. I wonder what they see with Nasarawa. If you remember in 2005 when the Emir of Gwandu, Alhaji Mustafa Jokolo, was dethroned also, he was banished to Nasarawa State. And Mustafa did challenge his banishment to Nasarawa. And the Court of Appeal in that matter ruled that it was a violation of his constitutional right under Section 35(1), Section 40 and Section 41 of the 1999 Constitution, and that you cannot restrain his right to associate, his right to freedom of movement, and his right to personal life and liberty. You have a right to dethrone if you follow the procedures as laid down in the state laws, but to banish him, that is not within the right of the governor to do.
Yeah, because
I know that if he challenges that, definitely he would get redress in court.
Yeah, because I was just going to come to the question. I mean, what does a person have to do for him to get exiled? Now, he's been banished and he's been exiled. I mean, considering the reasons given behind his dethrone and being deposed, do you think that is constitutional and legal in itself?
It's that act. It's not only repugnant to natural justice, equity, and good conscience. It is also contrary to public policy. And it's an obnoxious practice that was practiced by the kings of old, because there's always this rule that you cannot have 2 captains in one ship. You cannot have 2 kings in one domain. And that was a practice that was retained by the colonial masters when they came on board because it suits them. And it's very instructive to note also that this is not the first time a king is being dethroned in Nigeria, right from, as far as we can remember, starting from the Benin Empire, even, not too recently, also, if we remember during the military era, the Sultan of Sokoto also, Alhaji Ibrahim Dansuki was dethroned. The Alafi of Oyo at some point was dethroned. The Olowu of Owo at some point also in the First Republic was dethroned by the Awolowo-led NCNC. The Awujale of Ijebuland, as recent as 1982, also was dethroned by the government of old Ogun State, led by Chief Olabisi Onabanjo. He challenged his dethronement in court, and luckily there was a coup, and Oladipo Dia took over the reign of the state administrator, and then the court, gave judgment in favor of the Awujale of Ijebuland. And so you've had this long line of dethronement of Obas. But, every time there's a dethronement, the Oba is usually banished to another domain where he's to spend the rest of his life. But now that you have constitutional democracy, all of those movements are guided by the provisions of the fundamental rights of citizens, way outside the throne and the privileges that an Oba enjoys. And so to that extent, the court had consistently held that once a governor steps out of that band, then it's an unconstitutional power.
Yeah, because people have argued the fact that we are in a democratic setting. Does this still apply? Obide, you want to quickly react to that?
The bottom line is, I think in the first place, in a democratic settings, this shouldn't even apply in the first place, because I know certainly every citizen has a right to free movement, as long as their movement and their association is not one that brings about disunity or discord in the country. So just as a normal citizen now, without even mincing words, without wanting to sound like someone who is grounded in law, I think it's something barbaric, and which, if at all there's any provision in the Constitution before now that supports that, it's something that needs to be looked into. Because whether banished or not banished, this person we're talking about, it might have been someone else aside Sanusi. They have values they can still add to the growth of the country, and banishing them, denying them association with fellow citizens.
No, I think we should get one point correctly.
Okay.
Anybody can be arrested and restrained. If you remember, what's it called? I think the Semawe of Ondo now was arrested after he was dethroned by the Mimiko-led administration for assaulting his wife. The issue here is that the state had denied that they didn't banish Sanusi. And then also, like his legal team had said, when they asked for an arrest warrant, the police didn't provide any. And also, this is no longer banishment, but an arrest. So until government, or the government of Kano State, or the federal government, because now you're talking about trans-jurisdictional issues, until the federal government says this is the offense that Sanusi has committed, what the federal government basically is doing is unconstitutional and is a violation of his fundamental right. Because I think for them to have taken him from Kano to Nasarawa State, because if there's an offense, that offense can only be prosecuted within Kano State.
Okay.
To now take him from Kano to Nasarawa State presume or presupposes that's a federal offense that had been committed. Until we are told that offense, then the government has consistently violated his fundamental rights.
Oh, now on the issue of the banishment, the Kano AG did say that the issue of banishment was not part of the decision of the Kano state government. However, news and videos of security operatives invading the palace were seen. Now, what were they doing there if we're to ask that question in the first place?
We are in Nigeria, and we've seen scenarios where security operatives would always refer to power from the top. So probably that's, well, the power from the top is always the government, as it were, probably a circle in the government, someone in the government, some machinations within the government parastatals. So we'll still have to refer to the government.
And what does it say about our security personnel in our country?
I think the Kano State Attorney General is trying to hide behind one finger because from the press statement that was released by his team of lawyers who were with him as at the time of the arrest yesterday, they did say that the team was led by a commissioner of police in the state. And also it is very instructive at this point to know that the commissioner of police cannot effect such an arrest if there is no instruction from either the governor or somebody in the presidency that effects an arrest without a warrant. And yet they have denied that the banishment was not part of the decision of the state government, and the commissioner had not been queried. The police people that participated were not queried. Yet there was a private jet waiting to ferry him to Abuja, and then there was an helicopter waiting to ferry him from Abuja to Nasarawa State, and there were vehicles stationed to carry him from where the helicopter dropped him all the way to 7 hours drive to eventually to Logo Town. So it means that these were properly orchestrated and planned. And so it is not something that the police, as financially handicapped as they are, it is not something that they can pull out without somebody actually backing and financing it. So all of those stories of, oh, the government is not involved are all, you know.
Interesting. Now we're talking about this. Yes. Now, a former governor of Kano State, Rabiu Kwankwaso, has accused President Muhammadu Buhari of masterminding the dethronement of the Emir of Kano, now Muhammadu Sanusi II, and that he has been interfering in the affairs of the state. How true do you think this is? Because the president has come out and said they didn't and are not interfering in the affairs of Kano State.
What do you expect them to say? To say that to agree that they were interfering? You know, see, they say action speaks louder than words. The president is the commander-in-chief. He is the head of his party. Forget the fact that you have a chairman of the party. The buck stops at his table. If it's his party or a domain controlled by his party is in crisis, the onus is on him to call the governor in charge of that state to find out security report of what is happening. Sanusi had been very vociferous. Yes. He helped them, you know, practically helped them to get to power. And also they assisted him to get to the throne. And getting there, he turned against his own people, turned against the powers that be that was supposed to be protected. They also were not too happy. At some point, the president was called upon to intervene in the crisis between Ganduje and the emir. And he said that the law does not allow him to interfere in what happened in that domain. But for me, it's not about law. It's not about being legalistic. It's about morals. It's about being a leader. It's about, these are two Muslims brothers. These are two northern elders. And these are two people who you are ordinarily supposed to be close to. So if there's a crisis in Kano today, the buck stopped at the president's table. So denying, you know, that the Lord would not allow him to interfere. And yet you see all the actions and inactions of a governor in his party that probably would create crisis if not properly managed. And then you say you are not involved. All of the trappings of the event that had happened clearly shows the voice of Esau and the hand of Jacob.
Obedi, any thought, any reaction?
I think to a large extent, I would want to go with Barrister. The bulk of this falls on the president's table. And whether we like it or not, pre-election, we know, the popular voice against Ganduje coming back, the allegations leveled against him. And had Ganduje not had the support of the powers that be, probably wouldn't have been the governor of the state now. So for him to be there, and I want to believe, for everybody that plays power, you always want to give report back to whoever you feel is your backbone. And I want to believe whoever those backbones are, I think they're federal might. I don't want to say it's the president now. It could be a cabal within the presidency. It could be the president himself. But it still all falls down back to that place. Okay,
now there's an alleged corruption probe on Sanusi II of 2 billion naira. Now, I'm just wondering, shouldn't they have kept him in Kano State while investigation is going on this alleged corruption probe than taking him to Nasarawa State?
We need to understand all of this history. When Sanusi fell out with Ganduje, and then just before the last election, there were allegations that the candidate of the PDP, Abba, I've forgotten his name now, that he was a distant cousin of Sanusi, was a blue-blooded, relatives also. There was allegations that Sanusi was tacitly supporting him because he had criticized vociferously the Ganduje-led administration that why will you be taking loan to build a railway line, a monorail, when the children are out of school? Yes. And that also the monorail was supposed to be a PPP arrangement and not a loan from the Chinese government. Yes. So the moment all of this happened, Ganduje didn't like it. The next thing was the House of Assembly setting up a committee to investigate the spendings in the Emirate. And that committee indicted Sanusi. And then there was a law. I mean, they amended the Kano State enthronement and dethronement law. Immediately, Sanusi challenged that law. It was passed in May. He challenged that law in court at the State High Court. And the judge heard that not only invalidating the law, also quashed the indictment of the emir in that 2.1 billion allegations. Yeah. And now, in 2019, December 2019, they did amend the law again and pass the current Kano State Council Emirate law, which empowered the governor by virtue of Part 3, Section 13, to dethrone, the emir. And the moment that law was passed, there were also insinuations from associates close to Ganduje that once they win their election at the Supreme Court, even though they denied this, that their first point of call would be to dethrone Sanusi. And so sometimes this month, that allegation also raised its head at the State House of Assembly. And then the allegation was that, oh no, this is different from the initial 2.1 billion, that this is a separate one, because some PDP members on the floor of the House did query that allegation that he had is a matter that was sub judice, and there was no need for the House, to raise it. The Speaker subsequently adjourned the matter, referred the matter to a committee of the House to report back in 2 weeks. And while that was ongoing, they felt that 2 weeks was not good enough. And while that was ongoing, as a day before yesterday or so, they also raised the issue, and then that was where you saw the crisis on the floor of the House, where some PDP members heard also that a matter that had been referred to a committee can no longer be raised on the House until the report of the committee is tabled before the House for debate. And then the House was adjourned for 30 minutes to enable, parties settle. While that was ongoing, the next thing we heard was that the State Council had issued, a letter dethroning the emir for insubordination under Section 13. So that Part 3, Section 13, paragraph A to E. And then the investigation that I think, and I know for sure that investigation will be dead on arrival, because now the essence of that investigation was to achieve what they have achieved now. Already. So I had to give that background story so that, for the benefit of our listeners. Okay. So they've achieved that. So I don't think, it's not even a matter for the police. The police is not the one investigating it. So why would the police, that can't even be an excuse for arresting him and taking him to Nasarawa.
Okay. Now we heard that the deposed emir is in the local government somewhere in Nasarawa State, and his legal team has said they've not been able to communicate with him since Monday and are threatening legal action. Give us a legal perspective to this.
Yeah, that's why I said it is not banishment. This is an arrest. This is an arrest through the back door. What you have here clearly is a violation of a man's constitutional right as provided for in Section 35, 40, and 41. And thank God also, in a matter involving an emir also, who was also banished, that matter had been challenged in court. The Court of Appeal had made a pronouncement on it that the state governor had no power, absolutely, whatsoever, to take such decision. Yes. And so, depriving him of even access to his family and his legal team, it's another big issue also. It shows truly that there are plans to frustrate him, to psychologically torment him. So at the end of the day, break him down. So at the end of the day, whatever plans he had before, maybe at this point they might even be negotiating with him that he should sign undertaking like they usually do. Sign undertaking that he will not challenge, whatever action they have taken. Yes. But it was quite unfortunate. I had even expected, I had expected that he will challenge his dethronement so that it will give us an opportunity to actually, understand the workings of that law vis-a-vis the provisions of the Constitution. Yes. He had said he won't challenge that. But I know fully well that his lawyers have said they will challenge his arrest, unlawful arrest. And if they do, I can tell you for sure that with this law, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, he's entitled to damages, and the state government will definitely
now Obide, let's for a moment just consider the person of Ganduje, the Kano State governor, and what we know has characterized him as a person. Now, many people have argued the fact that he has no moral compass to have meted out this situation on the deposed emir, and I need your reaction on this. And what do you think the Kano State government hopes to achieve with all of this?
Before you even asked this question, I was going to say I think it's good we look at the person of Sanusi and the person of Ganduje vis-a-vis. Sanusi, from time immemorial, had been someone, irrespective of what he's getting from you, wants to say it the way he feels it is. It doesn't necessarily, I mean, we can remember during the time of Jonathan, he fell out with Jonathan because he was talking about, at first, he said there was a 48 billion, he assumed there was a $48 billion, but eventually, you know, when he was called to the house where he told them, like, you can take this job from me and all that, he said he had facts of 20 billion. But that case was really never visited before he was
it was
not visited.
It was investigated.
Now, it was investigated by PricewaterhouseCoopers House.
Yes.
But when they investigated, the report, the audit report they gave,
yes.
At the end of it, they said
8 point something billion.
They said it was 1 point something billion. But it should also be noted that these reports, before we could come at this report, there were certain people we ought to talk to. We were not allowed access to them. There were certain documents we...
I think we're mixing the issues here.
No.
Do you think...
So that's the person of Sanusi as a two-way. Now we're talking about the person of Ganduje. Ganduje, since he had been governor with... there's been stories about him. So definitely this is... I just purely see this as dirty politics in play. Dirty politics.
Quickly,
Ganduje, if you remember, Kwankwasia, the Kwankwaso, Ganduje and Kwankwaso are like this. Kwankwaso, as governor of Kano State, had Ganduje, I think, as chief of staff. When he lost the election to Shekarau and was made minister for defense, he took Ganduje along with him as chief of staff also. So when he came back the second time, he made Ganduje his running mate, and he became a deputy governor. And so Ganduje was part of that Kwankwasia movement until he became governor also, and they fell out. And so, for Ganduje, with what we saw, those videos, for a governor, a sitting governor, accepting bribe, and that the president, that's why I said the president probably knew more than he's telling us that he knows. And that the president will say, well, the president even tacitly admitted that Ganduje did it, but that he does not have powers to investigate. He said, even if Ganduje wants to collect bribe, why will he be collecting bribe in the face of a camera? You know, because it was obvious. That's why some people would tell you that it can only happen in Nigeria, where a man who is caught, panned down, will now be the one to impeach or dethrone, you know, somebody who has not been caught with hands in the cookie jar.
Okay.
You know, and then it's only in Nigeria where you have professors rig elections, or where you have professors rig election for thugs to occupy offices.
Okay, quickly, let's put on Obasanjo. Obasanjo did send out a letter to the deposed emir saying it is sad, it is bad and good. He said bad because it's undeserving the way he was deposed, and then good because he paid the price. I mean, what does that really mean?
Like we said from the beginning of our discourse, by the virtue of being the emir, is restricted. There's a limit to the length he can go in addressing issues. So Obasanjo is probably seeing it from that. Yeah. So now Obasanjo is looking at it from that perspective now that, okay, now that you are out of this cage that's been limiting you, that ordinarily should limit you from talking, it's good for you and it's even good for the country. And I remember in that letter he also wished him, like he was telling him to take advantage of it and be of better service.
You couldn't only respond to the former president's letter to the deposed emir.
Obasanjo is a mischievous persona. He's the same person who appointed special advisors and said he's not obliged to take the advice. And I know that if Sanusi were emir under him, he would have been glad that this happened. Because Obasanjo is not somebody, he loves criticism, but he's not somebody that wants to take criticism. But good or bad, like I said, and like he has said, the office was probably limiting Sanusi from doing what he ought to do. And but for Obasanjo saying he has paid the price, he has paid the price for being who he is. And that's so we can only hope that, you know, a good governor will come and rewrite the wrong, which I doubt anyway.
All right, legal practitioner Liberal Oshoma, thank you very much for your contribution on this segment, and also Bideyi Lobinko, political analyst, thank you for your contribution. Thank you, thank you for staying with us. We'll take a short break, and when we return, what is happening to Nigeria's recovered loot? Stay with us.
Hello and welcome to What Are You Saying? #Ways.
Is there a law that governs the tech space?
The first major law that you find out has to do with usage of data. It talks about how you protect the information you collect from people.
Most apps generate revenue through advertising and subscriptions.
I've seen children download 20 apps and they're using it. So what are we doing to trap, them from that young age?
So it's a step-by-step process, you know.
By the end of the day, if you're trying to develop an app, whether local or international, and your user interface is pretty awesome, most people won't care where it's from. The process for getting your app on iOS is way, way, way more stressful.
Stringent, yeah.
No, stressful, not stringent. It's stressful.
A lot of the jobs that exist today will not exist in the next 10 years.
10 years.
When I see people today shouting, we're not too young to run, we are ready to run. Ready to run to where?
The people of excellence are, to a certain extent, being held ransom by idiots and bandits.
Once you are in government, you believe everything you do is right. And once you are in opposition, everything the government does is wrong.
And so it's time for us to take over power.
Welcome to Tea Time on Plus TV Africa, where we bring you the biggest entertainment stories and, of course, analyze them for you.
You can have both parents and still end up as a useless child. I see them every day.
Most times I worry more about where I'm coming from and where I am now. Wow. And that determines my next step.
Why are you sounding like
Alibaba
now?
Plus TV Africa, we're feeling good. No time to dull, everybody feeling alright.
I can still make music and people are still buying. That's why they look myself minimal IU.
Akpala music is for mature-minded people. I got DMs sometimes from Malawi, like,
Sleeping early.
Welcome back. While the anti-corruption agenda of President Muhammadu Buhari have brought some down, we however don't know what is happening to the stolen funds recovered. Now, speaking of the funds stolen by former leaders and returned by foreign countries, the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Mr. Abubakar Malami SAN, has stated that the funds will not be returned to the federal account. He said this in response to a call by human rights lawyer Femi Falana, who insisted that the recovered loot be paid into the Federation account. And joining me still to discuss this in the studios is legal practitioner Liberal Oshoma. Thank you for staying with us, Liberals. And also political analyst Bideyi Lobinko. Thank you for staying with us. Now, enlighten us on the legal perspective of these two comments.
Yeah, the FF, Femi Falana, yes. SAN, did say that by virtue of the investigation conducted by the Abdulsalam-led government, was alleged that $5 billion stole from the federal government was funds told directly from the Federation account
yes.
and that they were proceeds taken directly from the CBN. And once those funds are recovered, by virtue of Section 162 of the Constitution, those funds, all revenues generated, it is presumed or assumed that it is the revenue that's accruable to the federal government and should be paid directly into the Federation account. But Abubakar Malami had argued that the refund of those money is a result of a tripartite agreement and collaboration with international bodies, and that so those agreements that they had with those foreign bodies and foreign countries, since there is a conflict, that those agreements will supersede. But the argument of Femi Falana also is that, look, by virtue of Section 12 of our laws of the 1999 Constitution, that those agreements, those international agreements, in as far as they have not been enacted into our laws by the National Assembly, they are still alien to our laws. And even if there is a conflict of laws, that our laws would definitely supersede. And so to that extent, these funds belongs directly to the federal government and must constitutionally be paid into the Federation account. And that's the quagmire. But unfortunately, what we have is that you have a situation where, the Attorney General, who doubles as the Minister for Justice, who is the chief legal officer of the state, also doubles as the legal advisor to the federal government. So if you had a situation where you have an Attorney General who is elected, who is distant from the office of the Minister for Justice, who acts as a legal advisor, I think by now the Attorney General of the Federation ought to have gone to court to sue the government, challenging them to pay that money into the Federation account. But because you have both residual in the same person and whose allegiance is more to the president and the government of the Federation that appointed him, they will pull the wool over anybody's eye using the same law, to browbeat and hoodwink people to believe what they want them to believe.
Okay. Now I'm concerned because the minister actually did say that the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission Act has nothing specific on funds recovered from indicted public office holders or assets recovered. Isn't this the reason why there's a loophole? And
there's no loophole.
Okay.
I think from my own perspective, we're talking about funds belonging to the country,
yes,
as it were. And I don't want to see it in a legal way. I just want to see it in a moral way. Okay, he took my money. You're collecting that money from him as someone who is defending me. The next thing I believe you should do is you hand back the money to me. So just on that note, I would have expected that any repatriated funds should go back into the Federation's account. And good enough, we have a single treasury account now, which makes it easier. I mean, this diversification of funds, I see it as another way of politicians trying to play with our funds.
Now, Shuma, you did say there's no loophole.
There's no loophole.
If the minister is alleging that the RMAFC Act doesn't stipulate how recovered funds should be spent, doesn't that create more room for this recovered funds
for the benefit
to be relooted?
For the benefit of the layman, so that we understand, Section 1 says this constitution is supreme, and its provision shall have binding forces on all authorities and persons throughout the Federation of Nigeria. Subsection 3 says, if any other law is inconsistent with the provisions of this constitution shall prevail, and that other law shall, to the extent of its inconsistency, be void. So, if Section 162 of the Constitution says all monies accruable to the federal government shall be paid into the Federation account,
yes,
and the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission Act is silent on funds recovered from foreign bodies, yes, looted funds recovered from foreign bodies, why do you need to look at the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission when there is already a provision in the Constitution that covers the feed? And so, it is when there is no provision in the Constitution, and then you now begin to look at the provisions in the Revenue and Mobilization Commission to say, oh, there is a lacuna here. The Constitution did not make provision for this. The law specifically that talks about, mobilization of funds and how it can be shared, also did not make provisions for this. The ground norm, which is the Constitution, has made provision for it. And so I don't see why anybody should be looking at any other law. What basically is happening here, like I said, is the fact that you have a situation where a Minister for Justice doubles as Attorney General. So he's fishing for laws to see how he can protect and defend their act. Yes, fine, all right, quite all right. The money still belongs to the federal government.
Yes.
And so if it is in the federation account, other states will insist that they will have a share of it because it is money that is accrued to the federation. But if it is with the federal government in a separate account, they can use it the way they want to use it. They can tell you that it is for Empower or to share to trader money, that was the arrangement that they had with the government, or that they want to use it to build roads. How this money is utilized also, we cannot be monitored by other state government because it is entirely within the purview of the federal government, And so that is why you see the Attorney General, pulling rules and citing laws that are non-existent to defend an action that is indefensible.
Okay. Now, Obide, interestingly, Malami stated that the users of the recovered loot are subject to international agreements between Nigeria and the affected countries. However, he didn't say what specifically they will be used for. Now, do you see foul play at work here? Because if not, why are Nigerians not being educated on what these funds will be used for?
Like Barrister rightly said, he read it from the Constitution.
Yes.
And it was stated there that any law, am I right?
Yeah.
Any law that is inconsistent with what we have on the ground should be put aside and our laws should be followed. So I still see it as hanky-panky being played here. It's just, there's no, I don't think there's any moral justification for this. It's just still boils down to there's a selfish interest that needs to be fed somewhere.
Quickly also, Section 12, subsection 1 says, no treaty between the Federation and any other country shall have the force of law, except to the extent to which any such treaty has been enacted into law by a National Assembly. And so, if you have an arrangement, an agreement, a treaty, or whatever name so-called, with a foreign government, as long as that treaty had not been enacted into law by the National Assembly, that treaty is still alien and should be subservient to our laws. And even if that treaty is enacted into a law and it is conflicting with the provisions of our Constitution, by virtue of Section 1, subsection 3, that conflict, to the extent of inconsistency, shall be declared null and void.
Can citizens take legal action in the case the government refused to state categorically what this recovered looted funds will be used for?
Yes and no.
Okay.
One, I had cause to pursue public interest matters like this. The first hurdle to cross would be the issue of local standing. How has your rights on this matter been affected by that, been so affected that it supersedes the right of, the other 150 million Nigerians. Once you cross that hurdle, then the government can now begin to look at it. So that had been a quite big question that, make people citizens shy away from pursuing public interest matters such as this. I think the only best thing for government to do is to ensure that our laws are obeyed and not obeyed in breach. And then we also will not fold our hands, hiding under the fact that, our locus to challenge such actions will be questioned.
Okay.
No matter how bad it is. Maybe someday, if we continue to push like this, our laws will be amended, to give us that power, that unfettered power.
Quickly, we're out of time. In conclusion, in your views, in 30 seconds, if you can, how do you think the fight of President Muhammadu Buhari administration against corruption has been so far in the light of all what is unveiling and happening? Obide, I'll start with you.
Before now, I was 100% with the president, but I can tell you that right now, with happenings and everything happening, I think my scorecard is getting low on him.
Liberal Soshoma?
I never believed that President Muhammadu Buhari, had the courage to do what he promised that he was going to do, even during the election. Though I believed at that time that Goodluck Jonathan didn't have it, Also, I believe that neither Muhammadu Buhari had it, because I looked at his record from 1984 when he left office up till he started running for office. I've never seen where he delivered a lecture on how to combat corruption. I never saw where he delivered a lecture on how to build an economy. And so for me, I know how politicians can build a facade around you and sell it. And so it was just all a facade. That's why you find out what you're finding now, that what we are basically doing is finding ways to recover money and not fighting corruption.
Legal practitioner Liberals Oshuma, thank you for joining us on Plus Politics and for your contribution. And also political analyst Obideyi Lobinko, thank you very much for joining us on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for staying with us. We'll take our Plus report, and when we return, I'll give you my take. Stay.
President Muhammadu Buhari has written to the Senate seeking an amendment to the Finance Act recently passed by the National Assembly. The President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, read President Buhari's letter during Tuesday's plenary seeking the lawmakers' endorsement.
This bill seeks to amend the Finance Act 2019 as recently passed by the National Assembly by clarifying, 1, that the administrative effective date for the increase in value-added tax from 5% to 7.5% is the 1st of February 2020. 2, that animal feeds in court are included in the list of basic food items that are exempt from value-added tax. And 3, aspects of the tax holiday incentive for agriculture by targeting this incentive to small and medium-sized companies that invest in primary crop, livestock, forestry, and fishing agricultural production. This incentive is also to be administered by Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission pursuant to the Industrial Development Income Tax Relief Act. While I trust that this bill will be favorably considered for passage into law by the National Assembly so as to support the implementation of the 2020 federal budget, please accept, distinguished Senate President, the assurances of my highest consideration. Yours sincerely, Muhammadu Buhari.
And here is my take. On the dethronement of Sanusi, what puzzles me is the most all of this is the odious silence of the northern elite. A lack of good judgment of the highest order is best words to describe the ongoing silence of northern emirs, the ulamas, the elites, and leaders of thought, as Governor Ganduje is similarly destroying a critical traditional heritage of northern Nigeria on a vindictive mission. Thus, the traditional institution which has given the North a semblance of cohesion, unity, and mystic is being torn apart at the whims and caprices of political criminals imposed upon us by people of do-or-die attitude, electoral maleficence. Now, today it is Sanusi Lamido. Tomorrow it will be another person who will be turned into a political rag and a houseboy by political neophytes who seize the reins of governance through undemocratic electoral backdoors. I call upon President Buhari, Chief of Staff Abba Kyari, and Chief of Cousins Mama Daura to urgently intervene in this ill-omened misadventure. His Royal Highness Sultan Sahad Abubakar and other emirs and leaders should intervene in this Kano Emirate crisis. The deposition of Emir Sanusi is a dangerous precedent, and Northerners' silence over the matter spells trouble for the North. I also urge the federal government to tell us what our monies are being used for. The stolen loot being discovered in foreign countries are the monies our parents and grandparents worked for. They were stolen and have now been returned. Nigerians have a right to know what they are being used for. Every penny of the billions of naira. Don't steal from us a second time. Remember, you won't always be in power, and be careful what you do today. And that's all for the show tonight. Thank you for staying with us. We'll be back tomorrow, same time. Till then, be well.
Seize it.
for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's Tea Time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Sometimes when we see celebrities either on social media, television, or in person, we assume they have it all together, but we forget that they're also human. Well, here are some of the low points of some of your favorite celebrities.
As a young person growing up, I have had to sell akamu on my head. You know, yeah, on a tray. You go like in the morning, like very early in the morning before I go to school. Buy akamu, you know. That's why you should never underrate anyone, no matter the situation. You see them or you find them. When I go to UK and had to play at the Rio Festival Hall with Miriam Makeba, then, oh my God, I'm like, that akamu selling girl. That was selling akamu. You know, so be inspired. Be inspired. Follow your dream. Follow your heart. Sit back and say, what is my passion in life? What can I do to better the world? And before you know it, you're already making an impact.
When I came to Lagos here after school, I remembered I entered what is called 911. 911 is a kind of lorry found then that they will load Gary, load at the back. Then in between the driver and the loads, we have what is called second class. And that is where I sat. And could you believe that by the time I got to Ido and I came down, my box, my shoe, because it took us 3 days from Bender, from Midwest to Lagos, all my loads were loaded. You see, when you pass through such, and when you become somebody, you look back and you look at what people are going through. It makes you to help others.
When I decided to be an apprentice photographer, we were living in Ebutimeta, and I would trek, you know, from Ebutimeta into Willoughby, from Willoughby into cross the Leventis into Ido Road, past Ido railway station, go across the Kata Bridge, and then into Agbogbon, into Broad Street. And I trekked that for 1 whole year. And then finally when I got to London, I had to be a cleaner, you know, every morning. Get out of the house by 4:30 to clean till 9 a.m. and then rush off to school. So I've done quite a lot of things like that, and I still continue to do that. And so for me, it is part of one's development. And I didn't see that I was suffering. Occasionally, you know, you want to stop. You have cried many times. I've failed many times, but I've just got up. I get up again. A lot of people, I enjoy goodwill of some people who pull me up again and help me on my feet, and then I go on.
I finished that film and I became very famous. As young as I was, I didn't even know what it was. Everybody would just be calling me over. I'm like, what's wrong? What's going on? When the film was all over the place, so I couldn't go to the market. And I used to go to the market a lot, you know, to go and buy all these second-hand, all the second-hand outfits. And then there was one day I went to the market with a couple of my friends, and I just realized that I just couldn't buy these things anymore because they would tease me. The market, the people in the market, the traders will always tease me and said, so you see, they come buy Bendam Boutique, you know. So that made me realize that, oh, so if I become a star, there are a lot of things I won't be able to do, or what? So I went back and I said to myself, is this how I'm going to live my life? I won't be who I want to be. I won't be myself. And I said, no, I won't let that catch up with me. Just be who you are, no matter your craft, no matter how high you think you've become. Still be that same person that the girl next door, still the girl or the boy next door that people can always relate to.
It is time for the African superhero.
We have also begun to see the renaissance of the natural, of the Afro. And what a thing of joy.
Imagine if we broke down that 40 million per lawmaker into how many families?
I am not for anybody in that sense. I'm for everybody and I'm for nobody. But I'm for people who, at that point in time when they're being oppressed, I'll key into that thing. But I'll never go and sign up for life and say, I'm your paddy, because I've seen women oppress women more than men.
A woman in church who preaches women rights, feminism and the rest, and maltreating a young small girl that is staying with her who is even younger than her own daughters.
That's the human
and and then the
way,
if you see the slap she gave this church,
wow,
the young girl, because she couldn't do sign of the cross, and I was like,
there's a very, very strange madness that's coming from a clique of people that have come into power with Buhari.
This is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Booking November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Hey, what's up, guys? You're welcome to another edition of Plus Event, and I remain your host, Ifeoluwa Oshukeye. Your absence isn't an excuse anymore, as Plus Event is all you need, as we bring you the glitz, the glamour, and loads of fun.
Oh, definitely. No question. He's a living legend.
Oh, God forbid, Holy Ghost fire, I know.
I just want to be blown away. I want to be wild. This is 11 years of doing it.
I'm surrounded by so much positivity. No, it's okay.
Yo, what's up, my people? It's your boy Starboy Terry. You're watching
Plus Event on Plus TV.
Stay glued to Plus TV Africa every Saturday and Sunday, 4:30 p.m. West African time.
A lot of the jobs that exist today will not exist in the next 10 years.
10 years.
When I see people today shouting, we're not too young to run, we are ready to run. Ready to run to where?
The people of excellence are, to a certain extent, being held ransom by idiots and bandits.
once you are in government, you believe everything you do is right. And once you are in opposition,
On Plus TV Africa News at this hour. President Buhari disassociates himself from Kano Emirate saga. U.S. imposes sanctions on Zimbabwe's state security minister over human rights abuses. And on the foreign scene, Turkey confirms first coronavirus case. Many thanks for joining us on News on the Hour on Plus TV Africa. Here are the stories making the headlines. I am Benny Ark. President Muhammadu Buhari has distanced himself from the dethronement of Muhammadu Sanusi II. Madam Garba Shehu, the president's spokesman, made this known in a statement in Abuja on Wednesday, describing such insinuations as untrue, malicious, and politically motivated. He said the president does not have a history of intervening in the affairs of any state in the country unless the issue at hand is of national consequence. According to Shehu, as outlined in the Constitution, the appointment or removal of emirs and other traditional rulers is strictly within the jurisdiction of state government. He therefore stated that it was unfair and disingenuous of opposition politicians to try to link the situation in Kano State to the federal government and Nigerian president. Meanwhile, Kaduna State Governor Madam Nasir El-Rufai on Wednesday appointed the dethroned Emir of Kano, Lamido Sanusi, as the Chancellor of the Kaduna State University. Also in the news, Amnesty International is dissatisfied with the dethronement of the former Emir of Kano, Mohammed Sanusi II. In a series of tweets on Tuesday, the group faulted the decision to banish the former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, after he was dethroned. Amnesty International called on Nigerian authorities to respect the human rights of former Emir of Kano, his right to dignity, freedom of expression, and freedom of movement. According to the group, restricting Sanusi and placing him incommunicado is against human rights as protected under the Nigerian Constitution and international human rights law. It therefore asks the authorities to ensure they respect and protect the fundamental human rights of the former Emir in accordance to the rule of law. And joining me live in the studio to discuss this further is legal practitioner Liberos Oshoma. Thank you for staying with us on News on the Hour.
My pleasure.
Now, some have said the removal of Emir, now ex Sanusi, was inevitable, and that it was long time coming. That it was seen the handwriting was on the wall. Would you agree with this?
Yes, I completely agree, and that's why for me, in the first place, before we the throne Emir, the former Emir, I wouldn't have accepted, even though he had said that it was his lifelong ambition to ascend the throne of his forefathers.
Yes.
But he also should have understood that, against the kind of person he is, a vociferous kind of person that he is. The throne, are for people in Nigeria especially, even worldwide, are for reticent people, and then when he took on that garb of consistently criticizing the northern institution,
yes,
which he was part of and meant to protect, and then the moment, the government of the day didn't find it funny, a lot of people saw it coming. Coupled with the fact that, we saw all the skimmings, all the, kangaroo, set up arrangement and committees set up by the state government and the State House of Assembly, and eventually, his dethronement for insubordination. Insubordination, quote and unquote, nowhere defined. And, every discerning mind, saw this coming, especially also when he was, if you remember, when he was, I think, working in the bank, in the Union Bank then, UBA, as, I think, general manager, Northern Region. The state government in Kano specifically stopped doing business with that bank as a result of his criticism of the activities of the then governor, who now is his ally, his friend, that when he even called the government house at Jinomoto government house, and that, why would the governor in the midst of poverty spend 700 million then building a government house? So he's knowing the kind of person he is, and also knowing what the throne entails in Nigeria, I think he ought to have seen it coming.
Now, to some people, it was pretty much a surprise that the Emir could be deposed in such a manner. So maybe you want to help us understand the hierarchical system of power when it comes to traditional rulers in the north, and how do they come into power?
Yeah, basically, there's no constitutional powers, provided for the Emir in our laws, in our constitution. The powers of the Emir are subsumed under the local government laws. And so that's why you find out that an Emir is controlled by a local government chairman, or at best, a commissioner for local government and chieftaincy affair, including Obas in the south. And but because of the nature and the command that the respect that they command, so you find out that some kingdoms also, depending on also the person occupying that position,
yes,
the respect, that is accorded that throne, it varies depending on the area. And then, but because of the fact that they are not constitutionally provided for, apart from being mere advisory to a governor, so, and then playing the role of elder statesmen who should advise, and the advice should not be made public, and also should not dabble into politics.
Yes.
Then that position, is a very tricky and dicey one. And we have seen in Nigeria many emirs and obas, dethroned for dabbling into politics, for meddling in political affairs. And so if you remember in 2015, when the former President Goodluck Jonathan went to campaign, went to visit the Awujale of Ijebuland, Oba Sikiru Adetona, the Oba said, look, as the king of Ijebuland, I cannot be seen to be endorsing a candidate because all of you as, my subject.
Yes.
And that's the role of, an emir too. Okay. And so in the last election, when it was presumed that the former emir was, tacitly, endorsing a candidate, so they saw him as being political, even though it can be argued that condemning, an act, that though it is alien, cannot be termed to be political. But all of that in the past now.
Now we understand that being exiled is actually has been a part of a tradition when an emir or an oba is dethroned. But many people argue the fact this is the 21st century. Yeah. Should this still hold sway?
Not
the times we're in.
Not at all, because this was a tradition that was practiced before we had a modern constitutional democracy. It was a tradition also that the colonial masters enjoyed. When an oba is dethroned, on the ground that you cannot have two captains in one ship.
Yes.
He's sent on exile. And also because you still have people who are loyal to him so that there won't be, crisis and division within the kingdom. So he's sent on exile, to another kingdom when he's treated, as a commoner. But in these days where you have constitutional democracy, every right, individual right of a Nigerian, be it Oba, be it a commoner, are governed by the provisions of the law. And so to that extent, nobody, not even a governor, has even heard by the Court of Appeal in Kebbi State government against Mustafa Jokolo, that not even a governor has the right to limit the powers of anybody as prescribed in section 35, 40, and 41, which is the same thing that they are doing to Sanusi now.
Interesting happening today. The deposed emir today was appointed as the chancellor by the governor of Kaduna State as the chancellor of Kaduna State University. How do you see this panning out?
I think it's more of a statement from the Kaduna State government, who has been his close friend and ally. If you remember, some of the criticism that, even sparked the crisis were made at the birthday of the Kaduna State governor. And so I think this is more of a statement endorsing, the fact that the deposed emir remains a hero, remains a shining star, and that it is not everybody in APC that, endorses the action of the governor of Kano State. And so the next state to Kano, which is Kaduna, also now, apart from appointing him into the Export Promotion Council, also made him a chancellor. Okay. These are, pointers to the fact that, look, we all do not subscribe to the fact that you shouldn't be criticizing or doing what you're doing. We also believe in your influence, your knowledge, and your ability to make changes. And those
now, just before I let you go, what is to become of hopes of reformation of some of the less progressive practices that seem to have impoverished the people?
I don't see. That's why the politicians are not happy. That's why they feel, look, like as an emir, you should be seen and not heard. And so because these are practices that have consistently held not only the northern part of Nigeria now, but the entire country, where people are consistently impoverished. And when you give them peanuts, you want them to appreciating you for giving them what ordinarily is supposed to be theirs.
Yes.
And anybody that raises his voice against such practice, it's tagged either enemy of the state or viewed from the point of view of, oh look, you don't want us to continually live our life. That's why for me, I think that people like us, it will be very difficult for us to go into politics. Our position is clearly cut out. Consistently, be a bridge builder, an opinion molder. Yes. Because the moment you want to come into politics, they believe that you want to change the status quo, or you want to ascend the throne, and such opportunities, such positions are either to silence you, or if you want to be vociferous as you were before you ascended the throne, then you will get such treatment. So that's why the status quo will always be maintained.
Right. Legal
except to
practitioner.
change our political, class.
Deborah Soshoma, thank you for joining us on News on the Hour and
Always
for
my
your
pleasure.
in-depth contribution.
Always my pleasure.
Still in the news, a former governor of Adamawa, Murtala Nyako, on Wednesday prayed the Federal High Court, Abuja, to strike out the alleged 40 billion naira money laundering charge filed against him and others by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. Nyako, in a no-case submission motion filed by his team of lawyers led by Kano Agabi, on behalf of first, second, sixth, and seventh defendants, told Justice Okun Abang that no case has been made out by the prosecution warranting an answer from them. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, is prosecuting Nyako, his son, Abdulaziz Nyako, two companies, Shobore Farms and Extension Limited and Pagado Fortunes Limited, who were first, second, sixth, and seventh defendants, respectively, in the trial. The EFCC had arraigned them on the 37 counts bordering on money laundering allegedly perpetrated while Nyako was Adamawa State Governor. The anti-graft agency has called 21 witnesses to establish its case against the defendants. The federal government on Wednesday called its first witnesses in the trial of Sahara reporter, publisher Omoyele Sowore and his co-defendant Olawale Bakare, who were being prosecuted on 2 counts of treasonable felony. But the testimony of the first prosecution witness, Rashid Olawale, a principal staff officer of the DSS, was cut short following an interjection by the defense counsel, Femi Falana, SAN. Falana objected to the witness evidence on the grounds that it was touching on issues not contained in the summary of his statement served on the defense. The judge, Justice Ijoma Ojukwu, agreed with the defense and directed the prosecution to do the needful. The prosecuting counsel, Aminu Alilu, promised to obtain the full statements of all proposed prosecution witnesses and have them served on the defense. The trial was adjourned till April 1. The dreaded Boko Haram Islamic sect once more suffered heavy casualties as the Nigerian Air Force fighter jets attacked their hideouts in Bula, Koroge, on the fringes of the Sambisa Forest in Borno State. This was revealed in a statement by the Director of Public Relations and Information, Nigerian Air Force, Air Commando Ibukunle Daramola. According to the NFA spokeswoman, the massive airstrikes were conducted in 2 waves of attack on 6 March 2020, sequel to credible intelligence reports indicating that the BHTs had relocated some of their fighters to the settlement to reinforce the location preparatory to attacks on troops locations surrounding civilian settlements. Consequently, the ATF dispatched an enhanced force package of several attack aircraft and surveillance platform to engage them in the location. He added that the Nigerian Air Force, NAF, operating in concert with surface forces, will sustain its air campaign against the terrorists' hideouts to shape the battle space for the effective conduct of further ground and air operations. The Benue State government has resolved to strengthen the state laws on ranching, anti-kidnapping, courtesan, and other related crimes to ensure that offenders face stiffer penalties. The state governor, Samuel Otom, while briefing newsmen at the end of the State Security Council's meeting in Makurdi, the Benue State capital, said the crime and criminality will have no place in the state. The governor said the growing cases of open grazing, kidnappings, and court-related crimes have become worrisome, thus the need to nip them in the bud. He said a committee has been set up to critically look into sections of the law that needs amendment.
In strengthening our laws, right from the prohibition of open grazing, we're going to strengthen it to make sure that those who trespass against our law receive stiffer punishment. We've also resolved to also strengthen our laws on kidnappings and look at areas that we can make it more effective, and including the law on courtesan. Myself and the Taraba governor met and said, look, traditionally, more have been known to be part of Benue. So, in principle, we agreed that more should still remain in Benue, but that has not been legalized. And Chanchangi should still remain in Taraba State because traditionally they have been there. The crisis between Benue and Ebonyi. But myself and the governor of Ebonyi are determined to solve this problem once and for all.
Still ahead, Ivory Coast confirms first case of coronavirus. These and more news after this break. Ivory Coast has confirmed its first case of coronavirus, a 45-year-old Ivorian man who had recently traveled to Italy, the health ministry said in a statement on Wednesday. The United States on Wednesday imposed sanctions on Zimbabwe's State Security Minister and its ambassador to Tanzania, the U.S. Treasury Department said, accusing them of human rights abuses, including directing an attack on peaceful prosecutors. Owen Nkube, Zimbabwe's State Security Minister, was blacklisted over accusations that he ordered security services to abduct and mistreat members of the opposition group, the Treasury Department said in a statement. The Treasury Department also said it imposed sanctions on Anselm Sanyatwe, Zimbabwe's ambassador to Tanzania, accusing him of directing security forces to attack prosecutors during demonstrations after the 2018 elections when he was commander of the National Army's Presidential Guard Brigade. 6 protesters and bystanders died and dozens were injured in 2018 in violence after delays in announcing results that made Emerson Mnangagwa the first elected head of state since Robert Mugabe's removal from power. Also, a U.S. airstrike aimed at Somali Islamist militants killed 6 civilians. Instead, a lawmaker and relative of one victim said on Wednesday, raising further questions about the extent of civilian casualties from U.S. military operations. Reuters could not immediately verify the allegations. U.S. Africa Command said that the strike killed 5 militants. U.S. Africa Command said in a statement that Tuesday's strike near Janali town had killed 5 terrorists and added, while we currently assess these airstrike injured no civilians, we're aware of social media reports alleging civilians' casualties. U.S. Africa Command said it will review any information it has about the incident. Up next is our foreign news. Turkey confirmed its first case of the coronavirus on Wednesday, becoming the first major economy to report an outbreak after taking what the World Health Organization, WHO, described as vigilant, cautious measures to delay the disease. Health Minister Fahrettin Koca confirmed early on Wednesday that a Turkish man had been isolated after being diagnosed with the virus following high fever and a cough. Until the announcement, Turkey, a member of the group of 20 biggest global economies and a major transit hub between Europe, Asia and Africa, had officially managed to avoid an outbreak, though all its neighbors except war-ravaged Syria had reported cases. Iran has an especially high number of cases. And also the World Health Organization sees the outbreak of the new coronavirus as a pandemic. Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said on Wednesday, "We're deeply concerned both by the alarming levels of spread and severity and by the alarming levels of infection. We have therefore made the assessment that COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic," he told a news conference. Up next, NNPC says over 50 crude oil cargoes stranded in the market. That's our business news after this break. As a result of the coronavirus pandemic, Nigeria has about 50 cargoes of crude oil that have not found a landing, and this implies that there are no off-takers for them for now due to the drop in demand, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation declared on Wednesday. It also stated that over 12 liquefied natural gas cargoes were stranded in the global market, a development that had never happened before. The Group Managing Director, NNPC, Mele Kyari, who disclosed this at a roundtable discussion in Abuja, further stated that for Nigeria to become competitive in the global crude oil market, it must strive to reduce its cost of producing crude oil. It said NNPC was strategically putting in place measures that would alleviate the cost of crude oil production in Nigeria. Chancellor Rishi Sunak has unveiled a £30 billion package to boost the economy and get the country through the coronavirus outbreak. He's suspending business rates for many firms in England, extending sick pay and boosting NHI's findings. In his first budget speech, he warned a significant but temporary disruption to the UK economy, but vowed we would get through this together. The Bank of England has announced an emergency cut in interest rates. Sunak, who was promoted to Chancellor just 4 weeks ago after Sajid Javid quit the government, had to hastily rewrite the government's financial plans to deal with coronavirus. Still ahead on Plus TV Africa News is our roundup in entertainment and sports news. We'll be back in a moment. Harvey Weinstein was sentenced to 23 years in prison today, 11th March 2020, in a New York courtroom for his sexual assault and rape convictions last month after delivering a rambling statement to the court expressing sympathy for men accused in the #MeToo movement while saying he's trying to be a better person. Judge James Bach sentenced him to 20 years in prison for the first-degree criminal sexual act and 3 years in prison for the third-degree rape. The sentences were run consecutively and both come with 5 years of supervision after release. The charges were based on testimonies by Miriam Halley and Jessica Mann, who both spoke at the sentencing. Weinstein addressed the court before the sentence was handed down. He said he feels remorse for his situation deeply in his heart and is going to spend time caring and trying to be a better person. He further addressed his accusers, saying he had wonderful times with these people. The social media bill has drawn a lot of negative attention due to the ambiguity of the details of the bill. TASCK Creative Agency held a conference on Tuesday in Lagos where different entertainers expressed their displeasure with the bill. Our correspondent Nimi Adekambi brings details.
The social media bill has drawn a lot of negative attention due to the ambiguity of the details of the bill. Task Creative Agency held a conference on the 10th of March 2020, led by Emma Abaga, who spoke on the importance of the event.
Bringing entertainers together to discuss this piece of legislation that the Senate is proposing that will limit the freedoms on the internet and social media. It's very troubling, especially in light with a lot of things that are happening in government, and we want to get a group of entertainers to come together and stand against it and say no.
Many are concerned about the danger of the social media bill to the entertainment industry.
You can't separate the entertainment industry from social media. It's part and parcel of the package. So for entertainers to be able to express their thoughts and their views and the way that they engage with their audiences and their fans, I think entertainers should probably be at least as concerned as anybody else, if not more concerned.
The bill has passed the first and second reading, and now we're trying to make sure it doesn't get to third reading. It doesn't go past here. It's not just entertainers, it's all hands on deck.
What can citizens do to ensure that the bill isn't enacted into law?
Educate yourselves. Go out, read, ask questions. The problem is we just take things for what they are. We don't really ask questions. I know there's a lot of fear behind all of this. That's the truth. Fear has been put in, the fear of God too has been put in a lot of people. But the idea is also be afraid that if you have no rights or you're not able to speak out or be able to express yourself, those mental battles are going to be worse.
Contact your representatives. So that's senators, people in the House of Rep. Go to the website nassnig.org. That's nationalassemblynigeria.org. Go to nassnig.org. You'll see a link at the top that says legislators. Click on the legislator and a whole reel of legislators will come out. When that comes out, it also comes with a phone number and an email address. All that you have to do is call, even if they don't pick up, send an email to say, I am this of this area. You are my representative, and I do not want you to vote in support of the bill.
The benefits of freedom of social media cannot be overemphasized. Regulation without stifling is important, and this is the reason why it is necessary that these hard conversations are had so that our voices are heard. For Plus TV Africa, Nimi Adekombi.
And that's it on entertainment. The very best in sports coming right after this. The Europa League ties between Sevilla and Roma in Spain and Inter Milan against Getafe in Italy have been postponed because of coronavirus. Both last 16 first-leg games were due to be played behind closed doors on Thursday, but they have been called off after Spanish authorities imposed travel restrictions between Spain and Italy. UEFA said it would communicate further decision on both games in due course. Roma had already said they would not be traveling to Seville. Getafe president Angel Torres earlier said his club were refusing to travel to Italy for the game, even if it meant they were kicked out of the competition. The Copa del Rey final between Athletic Bilbao and Real Sociedad was postponed on Wednesday following a meeting between both clubs at Spanish Football Federation, the RFEF. The match was set to take place at Sevilla's La Cartuja Stadium on 18 April. Meanwhile, the inaugural 12-team Fed Cup finals have been postponed because of coronavirus. The event was scheduled to take place at the Laszlo Papp Arena in Budapest from 14 to 19 April. The Hungarian government banned indoor gatherings of more than 100 people early on Wednesday, shortly after the ITF board had taken the decision to postpone the finals. The ITF says it's committed to staging the finals at a later date this year. And that's our news roundup of events at this hour. For more news updates, please follow us at Plus TV Africa on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa. We'll be back later with more stories making the headlines. Do join us. I am Benny Ark.
It is time for the African superhero.
We have also begun to see the renaissance of the natural, of the Afro. And what a thing of joy.
Imagine if we broke down that 40 million per lawmaker into how many families?
I am not for anybody in that sense. I'm for everybody and I'm for nobody. But I'm for people who, at that point in time when they're being oppressed, I'll key into that thing. But I'll never go and sign up for life and say, I'm your paddy, because I've seen women oppress women more than men.
A woman in church who preaches women rights, feminism, and the rest, and maltreating a young small girl that is staying with her, who is even younger than her own daughters.
That's the human
and and then the
you.
way, if you see the slap she gave this church,
Wow.
the young girl, because she couldn't do sign of the cross, and I was like,
There's a very, very strange madness that's coming from a clique of people that have come into power with Buhari.
This is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bookie November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Mona Lisa is all about me.
It's all about you.
It's all about our stories.
The stories that never get told, but ought to.
Whereby water transportation does not make financial sense, it makes economic sense.
I was there for 2.5 hours on the floor. Nobody attended to me.
If we don't take care of the poor will take care of us.
It's about getting at the root of things and hearing from the horse's mouth.
We are 15 public hospitals to make them affordable.
In the whole of Africa, we are bigger. You know, Nigeria, we sleep, eat, dream, fashion.
Those with the financial backing don't see fashion as an investment, which makes no sense.
If they do it for free, they won't have money for the next case.
Mona Lisa is about real life and real lives, yours and mine. Make a date with Mona Lisa, and together, let's ensure that the important stories get told.
Have you heard the expression, you can't see the wood for the trees? This comes to mind when I think of how busy we are, hustling for our daily bread that we forget to savor life. Today, we'll be seeking to change that by turning attention to a topic that should be dear to all our hearts, since it is the heart of how we connect with and assimilate life. Today is devoted to visual arts and human development. Still don't see the connection? Stay with me whilst I take you on a voyage of discovery. The vital role of arts and the artist is the ability to consciously bring about an internal change within us, as well as to communicate the truth to people across cultures and time periods. Nigeria has an artistic tradition that dates back thousands of years. Much of the country's early art had a religious or spiritual significance. Many of the traditional arts and crafts evolved over time to include practical and decorative items. Archaeologists in Nigeria have found a tradition of sculpture that dates to at least 500 BC, including statues and figurines made of ceramic, bronze, terracotta, and brass. The question is, what are we doing to enshrine and invest in human development through art today?
Visual arts in Nigeria exhibits the culture of the people, and experts say it may share certain economic resemblances with the Nigerian crude oil. Madam Nika Davids Ogundaye is the curator, Nika Arts Gallery, an arts gallery in Lagos which is arguably the largest of its kind in West Africa. Housed in a 5-story building, the gallery boasts of a collection of about 8,000 diverse artworks.
If Nigeria can really focus on the visual art, it will change all the bad image they are giving to Nigeria overseas, because art is also part of treasure, that Nigeria have all this creativity in their hand. Art is life, so they have life in their hand. So we should focus on art. Art is like oil. You can take it to South Africa and sell. You can roll it and take it to US and sell. Art is like ambassador to the country.
Kenyatta Tony Hills. He speaks about the immense value visual arts can add to Nigeria, especially with regards to preserving our cultural heritage as a people.
Actually, I've been in the sculpting business for long, because as a child, I started sculpting as a child. Currently, I'm working with sand and cement together with iron, but materials vary according to what you want. Plenty of people show interest in sculpture. Beginning from you can like something here and you can take it. Then we get hotels. Hotels like our sculptures, restaurants, I think they fall in the same category. Then schools. Actually, the price is not so high, but when you come, we can talk about it.
Renowned mural painter of the Falumo Bridge in Lagos, Polly Alakaja, is a UK-born artist married to a Nigerian.
I used to work with an architectural company, James Cuba Architects, up in Marble House there. And from my office, I used to look down on the space. And so I just kept in my mind, if I could do something with this space, what would I want to do with it to make it work better for the local community? And then the Chibok girls were kidnapped. And immediately this space became associated with the Bring Back Our Girls movement. That I felt they needed remembering in a slightly more respectful way and a deeper way. I think the whole story is so incredibly disturbing that I felt it needed more gravitas. But also, I didn't just want to, however, just concentrate on the Chibok girls. I wanted to really use the space as a sort of acknowledgement of the silent suffering of many women. And I think also you need to embrace the new and the now. And I think if you look at what's going on in our youth sort of space, in terms of entertainment and music, the movie industry, we have a very, very rich, diverse and interesting space there. I just wish I could see more culture deeply embedded in everything we're doing, which is why putting in public space, making sure we get it into the schools.
But how far would a normal Nigerians go for the love of visual arts?
It's good. And it's a very, I can say it's a very good structure, because you can see these ones there. It makes this place to look fine.
Why I would like to invest in visual art, because it keeps memory. There are some memory whereby the upcoming generation, they have not seen, but with visual art, you'll be able to tell them more about it, and also they will be able to have more incentive of what is going on.
First of all, I should say that I love nature. Anything, that, speaks to what God has created, and it's, very natural form. You know, I've always passed by here and I used to see the giraffes there, and I'm like, where can I find somebody in Lagos who can make this for me? But when I came back and I saw these animals, they're different from the regular lions and all of that, I thought for someone, it takes someone who really appreciates it and who's good to go the extra mile to make something like this.
Emekamba is an art lover and public commentator. He feels that the gold in the visual arts sector of Nigeria hasn't been harnessed of all its amazing potential.
My relationship with the visual arts started many, many years ago. I think it's part of my early childhood development, being, you know, what people call now a barrack boy. More serious note, I think that for me is I think art is beauty. And I find that the people that I'm more attuned with are people who have that same sense of appreciation of liking art, paintings, going to parks, seeing statues and opening their mouth and like, wow, this is beautiful. Or seeing a beautifully designed house, or seeing someone wearing a lovely dress. It's just, it helps, and you'll find in those people are people who have empathy. So it's simplistic to say that I think we lost our way when we lost appreciation and eye for the arts. I think there were many reasons, the many things that drove us off the cliff, so to speak. You had colonial rule, for example. I think that we will not find our way back to modern civilization, modern African civilization, unless we have a concerted, systemic program in which young people begin to appreciate art, especially African arts, not from a sense of fear, not from a sense of compulsion, but from a sense of genuine passion and love.
Mary Chinda for Plus TV Africa.
Are we beginning to smell the roses yet? As we continue to explore the garden of life and its possibilities, we are set to ask some questions of our next guests. Chief Nike Okundaye is a visual artist who also works with tie and dye. She has 4 art centers here in Nigeria, and of course, those centers train younger artists. She has one of the largest art gallery in West Africa as well. Please welcome Chief Mrs. Nike Okundaye. Welcome, ma.
Thank you.
You had an upbringing steeped in arts and culture, surrounded by music, surrounded by crafts. Tell us about it.
Yes, my parents are craft people, and I was born into it. The way they pass education to kids in those days, you teach your child what you do. And that is how I learned the music from my father. And then my father also is a craft person who used beads to make the crown of the king. He worked for the king all his life.
Wow.
So the way they pass knowledge
yes.
of art to kids in those days, that is how the art is passed on to me at a younger age.
So to what extent has this influenced you in becoming who you are today?
Well, actually, the inborn art actually helped me a lot, because this is something you cannot buy with money.
Yeah.
And then when I have no money to go to school, so I said, let me focus on what I know how to do and do it properly. The visual art is the contemporary one that we actually imagine that come from your own head or something you see and you want to put it in a nice way so people can read the art and also say, oh, what is this woman thinking by doing this? So those are the visual art. But the old one, which is passed on from one generation to another generation, is the traditional pattern of communication, which is the pattern of adire, which we call tie and dye. Adi, are, adire.
Adire.
And that adire is done in different parts of Nigeria. Cross River stitch their own, Benue stitch their own, Jos, Kano tie, Abeokuta stencil, Ibadan and Osogbo, Lagos, they do hand painting. So it's still the art of communication, which is called adire.
Tell us, what about the challenges? Tell us about some of the challenges you faced
owning this huge, beautiful place?
Well, the challenge is, first of all, is they don't want to borrow female money.
What do you mean?
The people, when you go to the bank and you say you want to borrow money, they will say, do you have a man who can stand in for you? Then you said, no, I have my work. Or if you have a collateral. So it takes me a while. It takes me 10 years. We have to even go to Obasanjo and tell him, we need money. He now say, I will invite the bank for you before they start borrowing us money, the small scale, before they start borrowing us money. So it takes us a while as a female. You know, it's always a struggle.
Yes, struggle for us.
For a female to be able to get up there.
Yeah. So getting funding is one.
Yes.
What about the other internal ones?
Oh, the NEPA.
Light.
The NEPA is chopping all our, because we are just on generator here. We don't have electricity, and all the money we make goes
to buying diesel.
Yes. Up till now, there is no electricity here. Because the NEPA will give you light for 3 days in a week, and then the bill comes 1.2 million. Then when you just buy your diesel, you are paying 60,000 a day. So you know you are.
Have you extended this complaint to the government? Or?
Yeah, I even went to see the NEPA office recently and said they should help me. They should help me. I want all Nigeria to be able to come and see the creativity of their own country with electricity instead of them using torchlight. So they said they will see what they can do
about it.
Yeah. And then each one of the art that is here is done by Nigeria. And then we are the custodian. We only keep it for them. When they need it, they come and collect it back. But once in a while, we get to sell some for them. And then when we sell for them, they give us 10%. Then we also give 5% to the government. But actually, it's for people to come and see and enjoy the creativity of their country. That is why we are not charging people to come.
You talked about a president that was here some time. I didn't want to go back to his country. So tell us about that in brief, that experience.
The King of Morocco come to sign the fertilizer in Abuja, and he saw us on TripAdvisor. And he told the people, if you can help me to get to that naked gallery, I will give you a credit. So from UK, they were looking for somebody who knows us. The king get here around 8 o'clock in the night. They said, August visitor is coming. We don't know he's the King of Morocco. This man did not live here until 11. After that, the second day he come back. He want to spend 3 days. He ended up spending 3.5 weeks.
Fantastic.
He just said
did he buy?
He bought so much.
So many
I
paintings
sent him
and artwork.
to 7 galleries.
Wow.
Then the market. And then he said, I don't want people to know I'm the King of Morocco. I now tell them, don't let people know he's the King of Morocco. The second day, they put a flag. King of Morocco, welcome. He was just buying everything.
Thank you so much, King of Morocco. If you're watching this wherever you are in any part of the world, for supporting the artwork in Nigeria, of course, coming to Mama Okundayo's art gallery to support her. Thank you so much wherever you are. So what developments would you like to see going forward in our visual arts industry?
Well, I want to also thank you people, the media, who is helping us to broadcast and show the people what we have here. So people can come. We want to see more young people.